Chapter 11. The Evening of the League. Paris presented a fine sight, as through its then narrow streets thousands of people pressed towards the same point. For at 8 o'clock in the evening, M. le Duc de Guise was to receive the signatures of the Bourgeois to the League. A crowd of citizens, dressed in their best clothes, as for a fete, but fully armed, directed their steps towards the churches. What added to the noise and confusion was that large numbers of women, disdaining to stay at home on such a great day, had followed their husbands, and many had brought with them a whole batch of children. It was in the Rue de l'Arbre Sec that the crowd was the thickest. The streets were literally choked, and the crowd pressed tumultuously towards a bright light suspended below the sign of the Belle Étoile. On the threshold a man, with a cotton cap on his head and a naked sword in one hand and a register in the other, was crying out, "Come, come, brave Catholics, enter the hotel of the Belle Étoile, where you will find good wine. Come, tonight the good will be separated from the bad, and tomorrow morning the wheat will be known from the tares. Come, gentlemen, you can write. Come and sign. You cannot write. Come and tell your names to me. La Hyrie. Vive la messe." A tall man elbowed his way through the crowd, and in letters half an inch high, wrote his name, Caicot. Then, turning to La Hyrie, he asked if he had not another register to sign. La Hyrie did not understand raillery, and answered angrily. Caicot retorted, and a quarrel seemed approaching, when Caicot, feeling someone touch his arm, turned, and saw the king disguised as a simple bourgeois, and accompanied by Quelus and Morgiane, also disguised, and carrying an arquebuse on their shoulders. "What?" cried the king. "Good Catholics disputing among themselves. Par la mordieu, it is a bad example." "Do not mix yourself with what does not concern you," replied Caicot, without seeming to recognize him. But a new influx of the crowd distracted the attention of La Hyrie, and separated the king and his companions from the hotel. "Why are you here, sire?" said Caicot. "Do you think I have anything to fear?" "Hey, mon Dieu! In a crowd like this it is so easy for one man to put a knife into his neighbor, and who just utters an oath and gives up the ghost. Have I been seen?" "I think not, but you will be if you stay longer. Go back to the Louvre, sire." Oh, what is this new outcry, and what are the people running for?" Caicot looked, but could at first see nothing but a mess of people crying, howling, and pushing. At last the mess opened, and a monk, mounted on a donkey, appeared. The monk spoke and gesticulated, and the S brayed. "Ventre de biche!" cried Caicot. "Listen to the preacher." "A preacher on a donkey," cried Quelus. "Why not?" "He is Silenus," said Morgiane. "Which is the preacher?" said the king, for they speak both at once. "The underneath one is the most eloquent," said Caicot, "but the one at the top speaks the best French. Listen, Henri." "My brethren," said the monk, "Paris is a superb city. Paris is the pride of France, and the Parisians a fine people." Then he began to sing, but the S mingled his accompaniment so loudly that he was obliged to stop. The crowd burst out laughing. "Hold your tongue, Panurge, hold your tongue," cried the monk. "You shall speak after, but let me speak first." The ass was quiet. "My brothers," continued the preacher, "the earth is a valley of grief, where men often pan quench his thirst only with his tears." "He is drunk," said the king. "I should think so." "I, who speak to you," continued the monk, "I am returning from exile like the Hebrews of old, and for 8 days Panurge and I have been living on alms and privations." "Who is Panurge?" asked the king. "The superior of his convent, probably, but let me listen." "Who made me endure this?" "It was Herod. You know what Herod I speak of. I and Panurge have come from Villeneuve in 3 days to assist at this great solemnity. Now we see, but we do not understand. What is passing, my brothers? Is it today that they depose Herod? Is it today that they put Brother Henri in a convent? Gentlemen," continued he, "I left Paris with 2 friends, Panurge, who is my ass, and Caicot, who is His Majesty's jester. Can you tell me what has become of my friend Caicot?" Caicot made a grimace. "Oh," said the king, "he is your friend." Quelus and Morgiane burst out laughing. He is handsome and respectable, continued the king. It is Gorenflot, of whom M. de Morvilliers spoke to you, the incendiary of Saint Genevieve. Himself? Then I will have him hanged. Impossible. Why? He has no neck. My brothers, continued Gorenflot, I am a true martyr, and it is my cause that I defend at this moment, or, rather, that of all good Catholics. You do not know what is passing in the provinces. We have been obliged at Lyons to kill a Huguenot who preached revolt. While one of them remains in France, there will be no tranquility for us. Let us exterminate them. To arms! To arms! Several voices repeated, to arms. Pa la mordieu, said the king. Make this fellow hold his tongue, or he will make a second street Bartholomew. Wait, said Caillecourt, and with his stick he struck Gorenflot with all his force on the shoulders. Murder, cried the monk. It is you, cried Caillecourt. Help me, M. Caillecourt, help me. The enemies of the faith wish to assassinate me, but I will not die without making my voice heard. Death to the Huguenots. Will you hold your tongue, cried Caillecourt. But at this moment a second blow fell on the shoulders of the monk with such force that he cried out with real pain. Caillecourt, astonished, looked round him, but saw nothing but the stick. The blow had been given by a man who had immediately disappeared in the crowd after administering this punishment. Who the devil could it have been, thought Caillecourt, and he began to run after the man, who was gliding away, followed by only one companion. Chapter 41. The Rue de la Ferronnerie. Caillecourt had good legs, and he would have made the best use of them to join the man who had beaten Gorenflot, if he had not imagined that there might be danger in trying to recognize a man who so evidently wished to avoid it. He thought the best way not to seem to watch them was to pass them. So he ran on, and passed them at the corner of the Rue Taillechap, and then hid himself at the end of the Rue des Bourdonnais. The two men went on, their hats slouched over their eyes, and their cloaks drawn up over their faces, with a quick and military step, until they reached the Rue de la Ferronnerie. There they stopped and looked round them. Caillecourt, who was still ahead, saw in the middle of the street, before a house so old that it looked falling to pieces, a litter attached to which were two horses. The driver had fallen asleep, while a woman, apparently unquiet, was looking anxiously through the blind. Caillecourt hid himself behind a large stone wall, which served as stalls for the vegetable sellers on the days when the market was held in this street, and watched. Scarcely was he hidden, when he saw the two men approach the litter, one of whom, on seeing the driver asleep, uttered an impatient exclamation, while the other pushed him to awaken him. Oh, they are compatriots, thought Caillecourt. The lady now leaned out of the window, and Caillecourt saw that she was young, very pale, but very beautiful. The two men approached the litter, and the taller of the two took in both of his a little white hand which was stretched out to him. Well, Mamia, Asti, how are you? I have been very anxious, replied she. Why the devil did you bring Madame to Paris? Said the other man rudely. My foi, it is a malediction that you must always have a petticoat tacked to your doublet. Ah, dear Agrippa, replied the man who had spoken first, it is so great a grief to part from one you love. On my soul, you make me swear to hear you talk. Did you come to Paris to make love? It seems to me that Bern is large enough for your sentimental promenades, without continuing them in this Babylon, where you have nearly got us killed 20 times today. Go home, if you wish to make love, but keep to your political intrigues, my master. Let him scold, Mamia, and never mind him. I think he would be ill if he did not. But, at least, venter Saint Grace, as you say, get into the litter, and say your sweet things to Madame. You will run less risk of being recognized there than in the open street. You are right, Agrippa. Give me a place, Mamia, if you permit me to sit by your side. Permit, sire, I desire it ardently, replied the lady. Sire, murmured Caillecourt, who, carried away by an impulse, tried to raise his head and knocked it against the stone wall. Meanwhile, the happy lover profited by the permission given, and seated himself in the litter. Oh, how happy I am, he cried, without attending in the least to the impatience of his friend. Venter Saint Gris, this is a good day. Here are my good Parisians, who execrate me with all their souls, and would kill me if they could, working to smooth my way to the throne, and I have in my arms the woman I love. Where are we, D'Aubigne? When I am king, I will erect here a statue to the genius of the Benet. The Baron began Caillebotte, but he stopped, for he had given his head a second bump. We are in the Rue de la Ferronnerie, sire, said D'Aubigne, and it does not smell nice. Get in then, Agrippa, and we will go on. Mau have I. No, I will follow behind. I should annoy you, and, what is worse, you would annoy me. Shut the door then, bear or burn, and do as you like. Then to the coachman he said, La Varenne, you know where. The litter went slowly away, followed by D'Aubigne. Let me see, said Caillebotte. Must I tell Henri what I have seen? Why should I? 2 men and a woman, who hide themselves. It will be cowardly. I will not tell. That I know it myself is the important point, for is it not I who reign? His love was very pretty, but he loves too often, this dear Henri of Navarre. A year ago it was Madame de Sauve, and I suppose this was La Fosseuse. However, I love the Benet, for I believe some day he will do an ill turn to those dear Guises. Well, I have seen everyone today but the Duc d'Anjou. He alone is wanting to my list of princes. Where can my Francois III be? Ventre de biche, I must look for the worthy monarch. Caillebotte was not the only person who was seeking for the Duc d'Anjou, and unquiet at his absence. The Guises had also sought for him on all sides, but they were not more lucky than Caillebotte. M. d'Anjou was not the man to risk himself imprudently, and we shall see afterwards what precautions had kept him from his friends. Once Caillebotte thought he had found him in the Rue Bethisy. A numerous group was standing at the door of a wine merchant, and in this group Caillebotte recognized M. de Monsoreau and M. de Guise, and fancied that the Duc d'Anjou could not be far off. But he was wrong. M. de Monsoreau and Guise were occupied in exciting still more an orator in his stammering eloquence. This orator was Gorenflot, recounting his journey to Lyons, and his duel in and in with a dreadful Huguenot. M. de Guise was listening intently, for he began to fancy it had something to do with the silence of Nicolas David. Caillebotte was terrified. He felt sure that in another moment Gorenflot would pronounce his name, which would throw a fatal light on the mystery. Caillebotte in an instant cut the bridles of some of the horses that were fastened up, and giving them each a violent blow, sent them galloping among the crowd, which opened and began to disperse in different directions. Caillebotte passed quickly through the groups, and approaching Gorenflot, took Panurge by the bridle and turned him round. The Duc de Guise was already separated from them by the rush of the people, and Caillebotte led off Gorenflot to a kind of cul-de-sac by the church of Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois. Ah, drunkard, said he to him. Ah, traitor, you will then always prefer a bottle of wine to your friend. Ah, M. Caillebotte, stammered the monk. What? I feed you, wretch. I give you drink. I fill your pockets and your stomach, and you betray me. Ah, M. Caillebotte, you tell my secrets, wretch. Dear friend, hold your tongue. You are but a sycophant, and deserve punishment. And the monk, vigorous and strong, powerful as a bull, but overcome by wine and repentance, remained without defending himself in the hands of Caillebotte, who shook him like a balloon full of air. A punishment to me, to your friend, D.M. Caillebotte. Yes, to you, said Caillebotte, striking him over the shoulders with his stick. Ah, if I were but fasting. You would beat me, I suppose, I, your friend. My friend, and you treat me thus. He who loves well chastises well, said Caillebotte, redoubling his proofs of friendship. Now, said he, go and sleep at the Corne d'Abondance. I can no longer see my way, cried the monk, from whose eyes tears were falling. Ow, said Caillebotte, if you wept for the wine you have drunk. However, I will guide you. And taking Nias by the bridle, he led him to the hotel, where 2 men assisted Gorenflot to dismount, and led him up to the room which our readers already know. "It is done," said the host, returning. "He is in bed." "Yes, and snoring." "Very well. But as he will awake some day or other, remember that I do not wish that he should know how he came here. Indeed, it will be better that he should not know that he has been out since the famous night when he made such a noise in the convent, and that he should believe that all that has passed since is a dream." "Very well, M. Kaikot, but what has happened to the poor monk?" "A great misfortune. It appears that at Lyons he quarreled with an agent of M. de Mayens and killed him." "Oh, mon Dieu! So that M. de Mayenne has sworn that he will have him broken on the wheel." "Make yourself easy, monsieur. He shall not go out from here on any pretext." "Good. And now," said Kaikot, as he went away, "I must find the Duc d'Anjou." Chapter 42. The Prince and the Friend. We may remember that the Duc de Guise had invited the Duc d'Anjou to meet him in the streets of Paris that evening. However, he determined not to go out of his palace unless he was well accompanied. Therefore the Duke went to seek his sword, which was Bussy d'Amboise. For the Duke to make up his mind to this step, he must have been very much afraid. For since his deception with regard to M. de Monsoreau, he had not seen Bussy, and stood in great dread of him. Bussy, like all fine natures, felt sorrow more vividly than pleasure. For it is rare that a man intrepid in danger, cold and calm in the face of fire and sword, does not give way to grief more easily than a coward. Those from whom a woman can draw tears most easily are those most to be feared by other men. Bussy had seen Diana receive at court as Comtesse de Monsoreau, and as such admitted by the Queen into the circle of her maids of honor. He had seen 1,000 curious eyes fixed on her unrivaled beauty. During the whole evening he had fastened his ardent gaze on her, who never raised her eyes to him, and he, unjust, like every man in love, never thought how she must have been suffering from not daring to meet his sympathizing glance. "Oh," said he to himself, seeing that he waited uselessly for a look, "women have skill and audacity only when they want to deceive a guardian, a husband, or a mother. They are awkward and cowardly when they have simply a debt of gratitude to pay. They fear so much to seem to love. They attach so exaggerated a value to their least favor, that they do not mind breaking their lover's heart, if such be their humor. Diana might have said to me frankly, 'I thank you for what you have done for me, but I do not love you.' The blow would have killed or cured me. But no, she prefers letting me love her hopelessly, but she has gained nothing by it, for I no longer love her, I despise her." And he went away with rage in his heart. "I am mad," thought he, "to torment myself about a person who disdains me. But why does she disdain me? Or for whom? Not, surely, for that long, livid-looking skeleton, who, always by her side, covers her incessantly with his jealous glances. If I wished it, in a quarter of an hour I could hold him mute and cold under my knee with 10 inches of steel in his heart, and if I cannot be loved, I could at least be terrible and hated. Oh, her hatred, rather than her indifference. Yes, but to act thus would be to do what Aquilus or Morgiane would do if they knew how to love. Better to resemble that hero of Plutarch whom I so much admired, the young Antiochus, dying of love and never avowing it, no uttering complaint. Am I not called the brave Bussy? He went home and threw himself on a chair. How long he remained there he did not know when a man approached him. "M. le Comte," said he, "you are in a fever." "Ah, is it you, Remy?" "Yes, Count, go to bed." Bussy obeyed, and all the next day Remy watched by him, with refreshing drinks for his body and kind words for his mind. But on the day after Bussy missed him. "Poor lad," thought he was tired and wanted air, and then doubtless Gertrude expected him. She is but a femme de chamber, but she loves, and a femme de chamber who loves is better than a queen who does not. The day passed, and Remy did not return. Bussy was angry and impatient. "Oh," cried he, "I, who still believed in gratitude and friendship, will henceforth believe in nothing." Towards evening he heard voices in his antechamber, and a servant entered, saying, "It is Monseigneur the Duc d'Anjou." "Let him enter," said Bussy, frowning. The Duke, on entering the room, which was without lights, said, "It is too dark here, Bussy." Bussy did not answer. Disgust closed his mouth. Are you really ill, said the Duke, that you do not answer? I am very ill. Then that is why I have not seen you for 2 days. Yes, Monseigneur. The prince, piqued at these short answers, began to examine the room. You seem to me well lodged, Bussy, said he. Bussy did not reply. Bussy must be very ill, said the Duke to an attendant who stood by. Why was not Miron cold? The king's doctor is not too good for Bussy. When the servant was gone, are you in grief, Bussy? Said the Duke. I do not know. The Duke approached, becoming more and more gracious as he was rebuffed. Come, speak frankly, Bussy, said he. What am I to say, Monseigneur? You are angry with me. I. For what? Besides, it is no use to be angry with princes. The Duke was silent. But, said Bussy, we are losing time in preambles. To the point, Monseigneur, you have need of me, I suppose? Ah, M. de Bussy. Yes, doubtless. Do you think I believe that you come here through friendship, you who love no one? Oh, Bussy, to say such things to me. Well, be quick, Monseigneur. What do you want? When one serves a prince, and he dissimulates to the extent of calling you his friend, one must pay for the dissimulation by being ready to sacrifice everything, even life, if necessary. The Duke colored, but it was too dark to see it. I wanted nothing of you, Bussy, and you deceive yourself in thinking my visit interested. I desire only, seeing the fine evening, and that all Paris is out to sign the league, that you should accompany me a little about the streets. Bussy looked at him. Have you not Aurilla to go with you? A lute player. Aye, Monseigneur, you do not mention all his qualities. I believe that he fulfilled other functions for you. Besides, you have a dozen other gentlemen. I hear them in the antechamber. At this moment the door opened. Who is there? Said the Duke, haughtily. Who enters unannounced where I am? I, Remy, replied the young man, without any embarrassment. Who is Remy? The doctor, Monseigneur, said the young man. And my friend, said Bussy. You heard what Monseigneur asks? Continued he, turning to Remy. Yes, that you should accompany him. But what? Said the Duke. But you cannot do it. And why so? Cried the Duke. Because it is too cold out of doors. Too cold, cried the Duke, surprised that anyone should oppose him. Yes, too cold. Therefore I, who answer for M. Bussy's life to himself and to his friends, must forbid him to go out. And he pressed Bussy's hand in a significant manner. Very well, said the Duke. If the risk be so great, he must stay. And he turned angrily to the door, but returning to the bed, he said, Then you have decided not to come. Monseigneur, you hear that the doctor forbids me. You ought to see Miron. He is a great doctor. I prefer my friend. Then adieu. Adieu, Monseigneur. No sooner was the Duke gone than Remy said, Now, monsieur, get up at once, if you please. What for? To come out with me. This room is too warm. You said just now to the Duke that it was too cold outside. The temperature has changed since. So that, said Bussy with curiosity, so that now I am convinced that the air will do you good. I do not understand. Do you understand the medicines I give you? Yet you take them. Come, get up. A walk with M. Denju is dangerous. With me it is healthy. Have you lost confidence in me? If so, send me away. Well, as you wish it. And he rose, pale and trembling. An interesting paleness, said Remy. But where are we going? To a place where I have analyzed the A today. And this A is sovereign for your complaint, Monseigneur. Bussy dressed, and they went out. Chapter 43. Etymology of the Rue de l'Égyptienne. Remy took his patient by the arm and led him by the Rue Coquier down to the rampart. It is strange, said Bussy. You take me near the marsh of the Grange Baitlier, and call it healthy. Oh, monsieur, a little patience. We are going to turn round the Rue Pagavin and get into the Rue Montmartre. You will see what a fine street that is. As if I do not know it. Well, so much the better. I need not lose time in showing you its beauties, and I will lead you at once into a pretty little street. Indeed, after going a few steps down the Rue Montmartre, they turned to the right. This, said Remy, is the Rue de la Gypsien, or Egyptian, which you like, often called by the people the Rue de la Gypsien or Jussien. Very likely, but where are we going? Do you see that little church? Said Remy. How nicely it is situated. I dare say you never remarked it before. No, I did not know it. Well, now that you have seen the exterior, enter and look at the windows. They are very curious. There was such a pleased smile on the young man's face that Bussy felt sure there must have been some other reason for making him enter than to look at the windows which it was too dark to see. The chapel was lighted, however, for service, and Remy began examining a fresco of the Virgin Mary, which was a continual source of complaint to the women who frequented the church, as they said that it attracted the attention of the young shopkeepers away from them. You had some other object in bringing me here than that I should admire the Saint Marie, had you not? Ma foi, no. Then let us go. Wait a moment. The service is finishing. Now let us go, said Bussy. They are moving. And he walked to the door. At least take some holy water. Bussy obeyed, and Remy making a sign to a woman who stood near. She advanced, and Bussy grew suddenly pale, for he recognized Gertrude. She saluted him and passed on, but behind her came a figure which, although closely veiled, made his heart beat fast. Remy looked at him, and Bussy knew now why he had brought him to this church. Bussy followed the lady, and Remy followed him. Gertrude had walked on before, until she came to an alley closed by a door. She opened it, and let her mistress pass. Bussy followed, and the two others disappeared. It was 7:30 in the evening, and near the beginning of May. The air began to have the feeling of spring, and the leaves were beginning to unfold themselves. Bussy looked round him, and found himself in a little garden 50 feet square, surrounded by high walls covered with vines and moss. The first lilacs which had begun to open in the morning sun sent out their sweet emanations, and the young man felt tempted to think that so much perfume and warmth and life came to him only from the presence of the woman he loved so tenderly. On a little wooden bench sat Diana, twisting in her fingers a sprig of wallflower, which she had picked without knowing what she did. As Bussy approached her, she raised her head and said timidly, "M. le Comte, all deception would be unworthy of us. If you found me at the church of Saint Marie l'Egyptienne, it was not chance that brought you there." "No, madam, Remy took me out without my knowing where I was going, and I swear to you that I was ignorant." "You do not understand me, monsieur. I know well that M. Remy brought you there, by force, perhaps." "No, madam, not by force. I did not know that he was going to take me to see anyone." "That is a harsh speech," said Diana, sadly, and with tears in her eyes. "Do you mean that had you known, you would not have come?" "Oh, madam, it would have been but just, monsieur. You did me a great service, and I have not thanked you. Pardon me, and receive all my thanks." "Madam," Bussy stopped. He felt so overcome that he had neither words nor ideas. "But I wish to prove to you," continued Diana, "that I am not ungrateful nor forgetful. It was I who begged M. Remy to procure for me the honor of this interview. It was I who sought for it. Forgive me if I have displeased you." "Oh, madam, you cannot think that." "I know," continued Diana, who was the strongest, because she had prepared herself for this interview, "how much trouble you had in fulfilling my commission. I know all your delicacy. I know it and appreciate it, believe me. Judge, then, what I must have suffered from the idea that you would misunderstand the sentiments of my heart. Madam, I have been ill for 3 days." "Oh, I know," cried Diana with a rising color, "and I suffered more than you, for M. Remy. He deceived me, no doubt, for he made me believe that your forgetfulness caused it. Oh, it is true. Then I have been right to do as I have done, to see you, to thank you for your kindness, and to swear to you an eternal gratitude. Do you believe that I speak from the bottom of my heart?" Bussy shook his head sadly and did not reply. "Do you doubt my words?" said Diana. "Madam, those who feel a kindness for you show it when they can. You knew I was at the palace the night of your presentation. You knew I was close to you. You must have felt my looks fixed on you, and you never raised your eyes to me. You never let me know by a word, a sign, or a gesture that you were aware of my presence. But perhaps you did not recognize me. Madam, you have only seen me twice." Diana replied with so sad a glance of reproach that Bussy was moved by it. "Pardon, madam," said he, "you are not an ordinary woman, and yet you act like them. This marriage, I was forced to conclude it. Yes, but it was easy to break. Impossible, on the contrary. Did you not know that near you watched a devoted friend? Even that made me fear. And you did not think of what my life would be when you belonged to another. But perhaps you kept the name of Monsoreau from choice." "Do you think so?" murmured Diana. "So much the better." And her eyes filled with tears. Bussy walked up and down in great agitation. "I am to become once more a stranger to you," said he. "Alas, your silence says enough. I can only speak by my silence. At the Louvre you would not see me, and now you will not speak to me. At the Louvre I was watched by M. de Monsoreau, and he is jealous." "Jealous? What does he want then? Mon Dieu, whose happiness can he envy when all the world is envying his? I tell you he is jealous. For the last 2 or 3 days he has seen someone wandering round our new abode." "Then you have quitted the Rue Saint Antoine." "How?" cried Diana thoughtlessly. "Then it was not you." "Madam, since your marriage was publicly announced, since that evening at the Louvre, where you did not deign to look at me, I have been in bed, devoured by fever, so you see that your husband could not be jealous of me, at least." "Well, M. le Comte, if it be true that you had any desire to see me, you must thank this unknown man, for knowing M. de Monsoreau as I know him. This man made me tremble for you, and I wish to see you and say to you, do not expose yourself so, M. le Comte. Do not make me more unhappy than I am. Reassure yourself, madam, it was not I. Now, let me finish what I have to say. In the fear of this man, whom I do not know, but whom M. de Monsoreau does perhaps, he exacts that I should leave Paris, so that," said Diana, holding out her hand to Bussy, "you may look upon this as our last meeting, M. le Comte. Tomorrow we start for Mirador." "You are going, madam?" "There is no other way to reassure M. de Monsoreau, no other way for me to be at peace. Besides, I myself detest Paris, the world, the court, and the Louvre. I wish to be alone with my souvenirs of my happy past. Perhaps a little of my former happiness will return to me there. My father will accompany me, and I shall find there M. and Madame de Saint-Luc, who expect me. Adieu, M. de Bussy." Bussy hid his face in his hands. "All is over for me," he murmured. "What do you say?" said Diana. "I say, madam, that this man exiles you, that he takes from you the only hope left to me, that of breathing the same air as yourself, of seeing you sometimes, of touching your dress as you pass. Oh, this man is my mortal enemy, and if I perish for it, I will destroy him with my own hands. Oh, M. le Comte, the wretch, it is not enough for him that you are his wife, you, the most beautiful and most charming of creatures, but he is still jealous. Jealous. The devouring monster would absorb the whole world. Oh, calm yourself, Comte, mon Dieu. He is excusable, perhaps. He is excusable. You defend him, madam? Oh, if you knew, cried Diana, covering her face with her hands. If I knew. Oh, madam, I know one thing. He who is your husband is wrong to think of the rest of the world. But, cried Diana in a broken voice, if you were wrong, M. le Comte, and if he were not. And the young woman, touching with her cold hand the burning ones of Bussy, rose and fled among the sambre alleys of the garden. seized Gertrude's arm and dragged her away, before Bussy, astonished and overwhelmed with delight, had time to stretch out his arms to retain her. He uttered a cry and tottered. Remy arrived in time to catch him in his arms and make him sit down on the bench that Diana had just quitted. Chapter 44. How de Pernon had his doublet torn, and how Schomberg was stained blue, while M. La Hirier piled signature upon signature, while Caillecourt consigned Gorenflot to the corn d'abondance, while Bussy returned to life in the happy little garden full of perfume and love, the king, annoyed at all he had seen in the city, and furious against his brother, whom he had seen pass in the Rue Saint-Honor, accompanied by Emin de Guise and Monsoreau, and followed by a whole train of gentlemen, re-entered the Louvre, accompanied by Morgiane and Quelus. He had gone out with all four of his friends, but at some steps from the Louvre, Schomberg and de Pernon had profited by the first crush to disappear, counting on some adventures in such a turbulent night. Before they had gone 100 yards, de Pernon had passed his sword sheath between the legs of a citizen who was running, and who tumbled down in consequence, and Schomberg had pulled the cap off the head of a young and pretty woman. But both had badly chosen their day for attacking these good Parisians, generally so patient. For a spirit of revolt was prevalent in the streets, and the boy arose, crying out for aid, and the husband of the young woman launched his apprentices on Schomberg. He was brave. Therefore he stopped, put his hand on his sword, and spoke in a high tone. De Pernon was prudent. He fled. Henri had entered his room at the Louvre, and, seated in his great armchair, was trembling with impatience, and seeking a good pretext for getting into a passion. Morgiane was playing with Narcissus, the large greyhound, and Quelus was sitting near. They go on, cried Henri. Their plot advances, sometimes tigers, sometimes serpents. When they do not spring, they glide. Oh, sire, said Quelus, are there not always plots in a kingdom? What the devil could all the sons, brothers, and cousins of kings do if they did not plot? And Quelus irreverently turned his back to the king. Hey, Morgiane, said the king, with what nonsense he tries to put me off. Well, sire, look at Narcissus. He is a good dog, but when you pull his ears, he growls, and when you tread on his toes, he bites. Here is the other comparing me to my dog. Not so, sire. I place Narcissus far above you, for he knows how to defend himself, and you do not. And he also turned his back. That is right, cried the king. My good friends, for whom they accuse me of despoiling the kingdom, abandon me, insult me. Ah, Caillecourt, if you were here. At this moment, however, the door opened, and de Pernon appeared, without hat or cloak, and with his doublet all torn. Bon Dieu, cried Henri, what is the matter? Sire, said de Pernon, look at me. See how they treat the friends of your majesty. Who has treated you thus? Mordieu, your people, or rather the people of M. le Duc d'Anjou, who cried, Vive la messe! Vive Guise! Vive Francois! Vive everyone! In fact, except the king. And what did you do to be treated thus? I? Nothing. What can a man do to a people? They recognized me for your majesty's friend, and that was enough. But Schomberg? Well, did he not come to your aid? Did he not defend you? Corbeuf, he had enough to do on his own account. How so? I left him in the hands of a dyer whose wife's cap he had pulled off, and who, with his 5 or 6 apprentices, seemed likely to make him pass an unpleasant quarter of an hour. Par la mordieu! And where did you leave my poor Schomberg? I will go myself to his aid. They may say, continued he, looking at Morgiane and Quelus, that my friends abandoned me, but they shall never say that I abandoned them. Thanks, sire, said a voice behind Henri. Thanks, but here I am. I extricated myself without assistance. But, mein Gott, it was not without trouble. It is Schomberg's voice, cried all, but where the devil is he? Here I am, cried the voice, and indeed, in the corner of the room they saw something that looked not like a man but a shadow. Schomberg, cried the king, where do you come from, and why are you that color? Indeed, Schomberg from head to foot was of a most beautiful blue. Der Teufel, cried he, the wretches! It is not wonderful that the people ran after me. But what is the matter? The matter is that they dipped me in a vat, the knaves. I believed it was only water, but it was indigo. Oh, mordieu, cried Quelus, bursting out laughing. Indigo is very dear. You must have carried away at least 20 crowns worth of indigo. I wish you had been in my place. And you did not kill anyone. I left my poniard somewhere. That is all I know, up to the hilt and sheet of flesh. But in a second I was taken, carried off, dipped in the vat, and almost drowned. And how did you get out of their hands? By committing a cowardice, sire. What was that? Crying, Vive la Ligue. That was like me, only they made me add, Vive le Duc d'Anjou, said D'Epernon. And I also, cried Schomberg, but that is not all. What, my poor Schomberg, did they make you cry something else? No, that was enough, God knows, but just as I cried, Vive le Duc d'Anjou, guess who passed? How can I guess? Bussy, his cursed Bussy, who heard me. He could not understand. Parbleu, it was not difficult to understand. I had a poniard at my throat, and I was in a vat. And he did not come to your rescue. It seemed as though he was in a dreadful hurry. He scarcely seemed to touch the ground. Perhaps he did not recognize you, as you were blue. Ah, very likely. He would be excusable, said the king. For, indeed, my poor Schomberg, I should hardly have known you myself. Never mind. We shall meet some other time, when I am not in a vat. Oh, as for me, said D'Epernon, it is his master I should like to punish. The Duc d'Anjou, whose praises they are singing all over Paris, said Quelus. The fact is that he is master of Paris tonight, said D'Epernon. Ah, my brother, cried the king. Ah, yes, sire, you cry, my brother, but you do nothing against him, and yet it is clear to me that he is at the head of some plot, said Schomberg. Eh, mordieu, that is what I was saying just before you came in, to these gentlemen, and they replied by shrugging their shoulders and turning their backs. Not because you said there was a plot, sire, but because you do nothing to suppress it. And now, said Quelus, we say, save us, sire, or rather, save yourself. Tomorrow and the guys will come to the Louvre and ask you to name a chief of the League. If you name M. d'Anjou, as you promised, he, at the head of 100,000 Parisians, excited by this night, can do what he likes. Then, said Henri, if I take a decisive step, you will support me. Yes, sire. If, sire, you will only give me time to remodel my dress, said D'Epernon. Go to my room. D'Epernon, my valet de chamber will give you what you want. And I, sire, must have a bath, said Schomberg. Go to my bath. Then I may hope, sire, that my insult will not remain unavenged. Henri remained silent a moment, and then said, Quelus, ask if M. d'Anjou has returned to the Louvre. Quelus went, but came back, and said that the Duke had not yet returned. Well, you, Quelus and Morgian, go down and watch for his entrance. And then, have all the doors shut. Bravo, sire. I will be back in 10 minutes, sire, said D'Epernon. And my stay will depend on the quality of the dye, said Schomberg. Come as soon as possible, said the king. The young men went out, and the king, left alone, kneeled down on his prie-dieu. Chapter 45. Caillebotte more than ever king of France. The gates of the Louvre were generally closed at 12, but the king gave orders that they should be left open on this night till 1. At 1:45 Quelus came up. Sire, said he, the Duke has come in. What is Morgian doing? Watching that he does not go out again. There is no danger. Then, let him go to bed quietly. Whom has he with him? M. de Monsoreau and his ordinary gentleman. And M. de Bussy. No, he is not there. So much the better. What are your orders, sire? Tell Schomburg and de Pernin to be quick, and let M. de Monsoreau know that I wish to speak to him. 5 minutes after, Schomburg and de Pernin entered, the former with only a slight blue tint left, which it would take several baths to eradicate, and the latter newly clothed. After them, M. de Monsoreau appeared. The captain of the guards has just announced to me that your majesty did me the honor to send for me, said he. Yes, monsieur. When I was out this evening, I saw the stars so brilliant, and the moon so clear, that I thought it would be splendid weather for the chase tomorrow. So, M. le Comte, set off at once for Vincennes, and get a stag turned out ready for me. But, sire, I thought that tomorrow your majesty had given a rendezvous to Monsieur le Duc d'Anjou and M. de Guise, in order to name a chief of the League. Well, monsieur, said the king haughtily, sire, there might not be time. There is always time, monsieur, for those who know how to employ it. That is why I tell you to set off at once, so that you may have all ready for tomorrow morning at 10. Quelus, Schomburg, have the door of the Louvre open for M. de Monsoreau, and have it closed behind him. The chief huntsman retired in astonishment. It is a whim of the king's, said he to the young men. Yes. They watched him out, and then returned to the king. Now, said Henri, silence, and all 4 of you follow me. Where are we going? Sire, said de Pernin. Those who follow will see. The king took a lantern in his hand, and led the young men along the secret corridor, which led to his brother's rooms. A valet de chamber watched here, but before he had time to warn his master, Henri ordered him to be silent, and the young men pushed him into a room and locked the door. Henri opened his brother's door. Francois had gone to bed full of dreams of ambition, which the events of the evening had nourished. He had heard his name exalted, and the king's abused. Conducted by the Duc de Guise, he had seen the Parisians open everywhere for him and his gentlemen, while those of the king were insulted and hooted. Never since the commencement of his career had he been so popular, and consequently so hopeful. He had placed on the table a letter from M. de Guise, which had been brought to him by M. de Monsoreau. His surprise and terror were great when he saw the secret door open, and still more when he recognized the king. Henri signed to his companions to remain on the threshold, and advanced to the bed, frowning, but silent. Sire, stammered the duke, the honor that your majesty does me is so unlooked for. That it frightens you, does it not? But stay where you are, my brother, do not rise. But, sire, only permit me, and he drew towards him the letter of M. de Guise. You are raiding? Asked the king. Yes, sire. Something interesting to keep you awake at this time of night. Oh, sire, nothing very important. The Evening Courier. Oh, yes, I understand. Courier of Venus. But no, I see I am wrong. They do not seal billet doux with seals of that size. The Duke hid the letter altogether. How discreet this dear Francois is, said the king, with a smile which frightened his brother. However, making an effort to recover himself, he said, Did your majesty wish to say anything particular to me? What I have to say to you, monsieur, I wish to say before witnesses. Hey, gentlemen, continued he, turning to the 4 young men, listen to us, I order you. Sire, said the duke, with a glance full of rage and hatred, before insulting a man of my rank, you should have refused me the hospitality of the Louvre. In the Hotel d'Anjou, at least, I should have been free to reply to you. Really, you forget, then, that wherever you are my subject, that I am the king, and that every house is mine. Sire, I am at the Louvre, at my mother's, and your mother is in my house. But to the point, give me that paper. Which? That which you were reading, which was on your table, and which you hid when I came in. Sire, reflect. On what? On this, that you are making a request unworthy of a gentleman and fit only for a police officer. The king grew livid. That letter, monsieur. A woman's letter, sire. There are some women's letters very good to see, and dangerous not to see, such as those our mother writes. Brother, "This letter, monsieur," cried the king, stamping his foot, "or I will have it torn from you by my Swiss." The duke jumped out of bed, with the letter crumpled in his hand, evidently with the intention of approaching the fire. But Henri, divining his intention, placed himself between him and the fire. "You would not treat your brother thus," cried the duke. "Not my brother, but my mortal enemy. Not my brother, but the Duc d'Anjou, who went all through Paris with M. de Guise, who tries to hide from me a letter from one of his accomplices, the Lorraine princes." "This time," said the duke, "your police are wrong. I tell you I saw on the seal the 3 merlets of Lorraine. Give it to me, mordieu." "Oh!" Henri advanced towards his brother and laid his hand on his shoulder. Francois had no sooner felt the touch of his hand than, falling on his knees, he cried out, "Help! Help! My brother is going to kill me." These words, uttered in an accent of profound terror, startled the king and mitigated his rage. The idea passed quickly through his mind that in their family, as by a curse, brother had always assassinated brother. "No, my brother," said he, "you are wrong. I do not wish to hurt you, but you cannot contend with me. I am the master, and if you did not know it before, you know it now." "Yes, my brother, I acknowledge it." "Very well. Then give me that letter. The king orders it." The duke let it fall, and the king picked it up, but without reading it put it in his pocketbook. "Is that all?" said the duke, with his sinister glance. "No, monsieur, you must keep your room until my suspicions with respect to you are completely dissipated. The room is commodious, and not much like a prison. Stay here. You will have good company, at least, outside the door, for this night these 4 gentlemen will guard you. Tomorrow they will be relieved by a guard of Swiss." "But, my friends, cannot I see them?" "Who do you call your friends?" "M. de Monsoreau, M. de Riberac, M. Intrigues, and M. de Bussy." "Oh, yes, of course. Has he had the misfortune to displease your majesty?" "Yes." "When?" "Sire, always, but particularly tonight." "Tonight? What did he do?" "Insulted me in the streets of Paris." "You?" "My followers, which is the same thing." "Bussy, you are being deceived." "Sire, I know what I say." "Sire, M. de Bussy has not been out of his hotel for 2 days. He is at home, ill in bed, burning with fever." The king turned to Schomberg, who said, "If he had fever, at all events he had it in the Rue Coquillière." "Who told you he was there?" said the duke. "I saw him." "You saw Bussy out of doors?" "Yes, looking well and happy, and accompanied by his ordinary follower, that Remy." "Then I do not understand it. I saw him in bed myself. He must have deceived me." "It is well. He will be punished with the rest," said the king. "If M. de Bussy went out alone after refusing to go out with me." "You hear, gentlemen, what my brother says. But we will talk of him another time. Now I recommend my brother to your care. You will have the honor of serving as guard to a prince of the blood." "Oh, sire," said Quelus, "be satisfied. We know what we owe to M. le Duc." "It is well. Adieu, gentlemen." "Sire," cried the duke, "am I really a prisoner? Are my friends not to visit me? And am I not to go out?" And the idea of the next day presented itself to his mind, when his presence would be so necessary to M. de Guise. "Sire," cried he again, "let me at least remain near your majesty. It is my place, and I can be as well guarded there as elsewhere. Sire, grant me this favor." The king was about to yield to this request and say, "Yes," when his attention was attracted to the door, where a long body, with its arms, its head, and everything that it could move, was making signs to him to say no. It was Caillebotte. "No," said Henri to his brother, "you are very well here, and here you must stay." "Sire, it is my pleasure, and that is enough," said the king, haughtily. "I said I was the real king of France," murmured Caillebotte. Chapter 46. How Caillebotte paid a visit to Bussy, and what followed. The next morning, About 9, Bussy was eating his breakfast and talking with Remy over the events of the previous day. "Remy," said he, "did you not think you had seen somewhere that gentleman whom they were dipping in a vat in the Rue Coquillier?" "Yes, M. le Comte, but I cannot think of his name." "I ought to have helped him," said Bussy. "It is a duty one gentleman owes to another. But, really, Remy, I was too much occupied with my own affairs." But he must have recognized us, for we were our natural color, and it seemed to me that he rolled his eyes frightfully and shook his fist at us. "Are you sure of that, Remy? We must find out who it was. I cannot let such an insult pass." "Oh," cried Remy, "I know now who he was." "How so?" "I heard him swear." "I should think so. Anyone would have sworn in such a situation." "Yes, but he swore in German." "Bah!" "Yes," he said, "Gott verdum." "Then it was Schomburg." "Himself, M. le Comte." "Then, my dear Remy, get your salves ready." "Why so, monsieur?" "Because, before long, you will have to apply them either to his skin or to mine. You would not be so foolish as to get killed, now you are so well and so happy. Saint Marie el Egyptian has cured you once, but she will get tired of working miracles for you. On the contrary, Remy, you cannot tell how pleasant it feels to risk your life when you are happy. I assure you I never fought with a good heart when I had lost large sums at play, when things had gone wrong, or when I had anything to reproach myself with. But when my purse is full, my heart light, and my conscience clear, I go boldly to the field, for I am sure of my hand. It is then I am brilliant. I should fight well today, Remy, for, thanks to you," said he, extending his hand to the young man, "I am very happy. Stay a moment, however. You will, I hope, deprive yourself of this pleasure. A beautiful lady of my acquaintance made me swear to keep you safe and sound, under pretext that your life belongs to her." "Good Remy." "You call me good Remy, because I brought you to see Madame de Monsoreau, but shall you call me so when you are separated from her? And unluckily the day approaches, if it be not come." "What do you mean?" "Do you not know that she is going to end you, and that I myself have the grief of being separated from Gertrude?" "Ah!" Bussy could not help smiling at the pretended grief of the young man. "You love her, then?" he said. "I should think so. You should see how she beats me." "And you let her do it?" "Oh, yes." But to return to Diana, Remy, when shall we set off? "Ah, I expected that. On the latest possible day, I should say." "Why so?" "Firstly, because it seems to me that M. le Duc d'Anjou will want you here. After, because M. de Monsoreau, by a special blessing, does not suspect you in the least, and would suspect something immediately if he saw you disappear from Paris at the same time as his wife. What do I care for that? No, but I care. I charge myself with curing the sword strokes received in duels, for, as you manage your sword well, you never receive very serious ones, but not the blows given secretly by jealous husbands. They are animals, who, in such cases, strike hard. Well, my dear friend, if it is my destiny to be killed by M. de Monsoreau, well, he will kill me. And then, a week after, Madame de Monsoreau will be reconciled to her husband, which will dreadfully enrage your poor soul, which will see it from above or below, without being able to prevent it. You are right, Remy, I will live. Quite right. But that is not all. You must be charmingly polite to him. He is frightfully jealous of the Duc d'Anjou, who, while you were ill in bed, promenaded before the house with his orderly. Make advances. Then, to this charming husband, and do not even ask him what has become of his wife, since you know quite well. You are right, Remy, I believe. Now I am no longer jealous of the Bey. I will be civil to him. At this moment someone knocked at the door. "Who is there?" cried Bussy. "Monsieur," replied a page, "there is a gentleman below who wishes to speak to you." "To speak to me so early? Who is it?" "A tall gentleman, dressed in green velvet." Can it be Schomburg? He said a tall man. True. Then Monsoreau, perhaps. Well, let him enter. After a minute the visitor entered. Caicot, cried Bussy. Himself, le Comte. Remy retired into another room, and then Caicot said, Monsieur, I come to propose to you a little bargain. Speak, monsieur, said Bussy in great surprise. What will you promise me if I render you a great service? That depends on the service, monsieur, replied Bussy disdainfully. Caicot feigned not to remark this air of disdain. Monsieur, said he, sitting down and crossing his long legs, I remark that you do not ask me to sit down. The color mounted to Bussy's face. Monsieur, continued Caicot, have you heard of the League? I have heard much of it, said Bussy. Well, monsieur, you ought to know that it is an association of honest Christians, united for the purpose of religiously massacring their neighbors, the Huguenots. Are you of the League, monsieur? I am. But, monsieur? Say only yes or no. Allow me to express my astonishment. I did myself the honor of asking you if you belong to the League. Caicot, as I do not like questions whose import I do not understand, I beg you to change the conversation before I am forced to tell you that I do not like questioners. Come, Caicot, we have but a few minutes left. Well, in a few minutes one can say a great deal. However, I might have dispensed with asking you the question, as if you do not belong to the League now, you soon will, as Dianju does. Dianju, who told you that? Himself, speaking to me in person, as the gentlemen of the law say, or rather write. For example, that Nicolas David, that star of the Forum Parisiense. Now you understand that as Dianju belongs to the League, you cannot help belonging to it also. You, who are his right arm. The League knows better than to accept a maimed chief. Well, Caicot, what then? Why, if you do belong to it, or they think you are likely to do so, what has happened to His Royal Highness will certainly happen to you. And what has happened to him? Monsieur, said Caicot, rising and imitating de Bussy's manner of a little before, I do not love questions, nor questioners. Therefore I have a great mind to let them do to you what they have done tonight to the Duke. Caicot, said Bussy, with a smile, speak, I beg of you. Where is the Duke? He is in prison. Where? In his own room, for my good friends guard him. De Schomburg, who was dyed blue yesterday, as you know, since you passed during the operation, D'Epernon, who is yellow from the fright he had, de Quelus, who is red with anger, and de Morgian, who is white with ennui. It is beautiful to see, not to speak of a Duke, who is going green with terror, so that we shall have a perfect rainbow to delight our eyes. Then, monsieur, you think my liberty in danger. Danger, monsieur. Suppose that they are already on the way to arrest you. Bussy shuddered. Do you like the Bastille, de Bussy? It is a good place of meditation, and Laurent Testu, the governor, keeps a good cook. They would send me to the Bastille. Ma foi, I ought to have in my pocket something like an order to conduct you there. Would you like to see it? And Caicot drew from his pocket an order from the king in due form, to apprehend, wherever he might be, Louis de Clermont, Seigneur de Bussy, written very nicely by Quelus, continued Caicot. Then, monsieur, cried Bussy, you are really rendering me a service. I think so. Do you agree with me? Monsieur, I beg you to tell me why you do it, for you love the king, and he hates me. Le Comte, I save you. Think what you please of my action, but do you forget that I ask for a recompense? Ah, true. Well, most willingly, monsieur. Then some day you will do what I ask you. On my honor, if possible. That is enough. Now mount your horse and disappear. I go to carry this order to those who are to use it. Then you are not to arrest me yourself. For what do you take me? But I should abandon my master. Have no scruples. He abandons you. You are a gentleman, M. Kaikot. Bussy called Remy. To do him justice, he was listening at the door. Remy, our horses. They are settled, monsieur. Ah, said Kaikot. This young man knows what he is about. Bussy thanked Kaikot once more and went down. Where are we going? Said Remy. Well, said Bussy, hesitating. What do you say to Normandy? Said Kaikot. It is too near. Flanders, then too far. Anjou is a reasonable distance, monsieur, said Remy. Well, then, Anjou, said Bussy, colouring. Adieu, monsieur, said Kaikot. It is destiny, said Remy, when he was gone. Let us be quick, and perhaps we may overtake her, said Bussy. Chapter 47. The Chess of M. Kaikot, and the Cup and Bowl of M. Quelus. Kaikot returned joyfully to the Louvre. It was a great satisfaction to him to have saved a brave gentleman like Bussy. M. de Guise, after having received in the morning the principal leaguers, who came to bring him the registers filled with signatures, and after having made them all swear to recognize the chief that the king should appoint, went out to visit Anjou, whom he had lost sight of about 10 the evening before. The Duke found the prince's valet rather unquiet at his master's absence, but he imagined that he had slept at the Louvre. The Jew de Guise asked to speak to Aurélie, who was most likely to know where his master was. Aurélie came, but stated he had been separated from the prince the evening before by a pressure of the crowd, and had come to the Hôtel d'Anjou to wait for him, not knowing that his highness had intended to sleep at the Louvre. He added that he had just sent to the Louvre to inquire, and that a message had been returned that the Duke was still asleep. Asleep at 11 o'clock. Not likely. You ought to go to the Louvre, Aurélie. I did think of it, Monseigneur, but I feared that this was only a tale invented to satisfy my messenger, and that the prince was seeking pleasure elsewhere, and might be annoyed at my seeking him. Oh, no, the Duke has too much sense to be pleasure-seeking on a day like this. Go to the Louvre. You will be sure to find him there. I will if you wish it, but what shall I say to him? Say that the convocation at the Louvre is fixed for 2 o'clock, and that it is necessary that we should have a conference first. It is not at the time when the king is about to choose a chief of the league that he should be sleeping. Very well. Monseigneur, I will beg his highness to come here, and say that I am waiting impatiently for him. Meanwhile I will go and seek M. de Bussy. But if I do not find his highness, what am I to do? Then make no further search for him. In any event, I shall be at the Louvre at 2:15. Aurélie passed through the courtiers who crowded the Louvre and made his way to the Duke's apartments. At the door he found Kaikot playing chess. Aurélie tried to pass, but Kaikot, with his long legs, blocked up the doorway. He was forced to touch him on the shoulder. Ah, it is you, M. Aurélie. What are you doing, M. Kaikot? Playing chess, as you see. All alone. Yes, I am studying. Do you play? Very little. Yes, I know you are a musician, and music is so difficult an art that those who give themselves to it must sacrifice all their time. You seem very serious over your game. Yes, it is my king who disquiets me. You must know, M. Aurélie, that at chess the king is a very insignificant person, who has no will, who can only go one step forward or back, or one to the right or left, while he is surrounded by active enemies, by knights who jump 3 squares at a time, by a crowd of pawns who surround him, so that if he be badly counseled, he is a ruined king in no time. My oi. But, M. Kaikot, how does it happen that you are studying this at the door of His Royal Highness' room? Because I am waiting for M. Quelus, who is in there. Way. With His Highness. With His Highness. What is he doing there? I did not think they were such friends. Hush! Then he whispered in Aurélie's ear, he has come to ask pardon of the Duke for a little quarrel they had yesterday. Really? It was the king who insisted on it. You know on what excellent terms the brothers are just now. The king would not suffer an impertinence of Quelus's to pass, and ordered him to apologize. Really? Ah, M. I think that we are entering the golden age. The Louvre is about to become Arcadia, and the two brothers arcades ambo. Aurelie smiled and passed into the antechamber, where he was courteously saluted by Quelus, between whose hands a superb cup and bowl of ebony inlaid with ivory was making rapid evolutions. "Bravo, M. Quelus," said Aurelie. "Ah, my dear M. Aurelie, when shall I play cup and bowl as well as you play the lute?" "When you have studied your plaything as long as I have my instrument. But where is Monseigneur? I thought you were with him." "I have an audience with him, but Schomberg comes first." "What? M. de Schomberg also?" "Oh, mon Dieu, yes. The king settled all that. He is in the next room. Enter M. Aurelie, and remind the prince that we are waiting for him." Aurelie opened the second door and saw Schomberg reclining on a kind of couch, from which he amused himself by sending from a tube little balls of earth through a gold ring, suspended from the ceiling by a silk thread, while a favorite dog brought him back the balls as they fell. "Ah, guten Morgen, M. Aurelie. You see I am amusing myself while I wait for my audience." "But where's Monseigneur?" "Oh, he is occupied in pardoning D'Epernon and Morgian. But will you not enter, you who are privileged?" "Perhaps it would be indiscreet." "Not at all. Enter, M. Aurelie, enter." And he pushed him into the next room, where the astonished musician perceived D'Epernon before a mirror, occupied in stiffening his mustachios, while Morgian, seated near the window, was cutting out engravings, by the side of which the bas-reliefs on the temple of Venus Aphrodite would have looked holy. The Duke, without his sword, was in his armchair between these two men, who only looked at him to watch his movements and only spoke to him to say something disagreeable. Seeing Aurelie, he got up to meet him. "Take care, Monseigneur," said Morgian. "You are stepping on my figures." "Mon Dieu," cried the musician. "He insults my master." "De M. Aurelie," said D'Epernon, still arranging his moustachoir. "How are you?" "Be so kind as to bring me here your little dagger," said Morgian. "Gentlemen, gentlemen, do you not remember where you are?" "Yes, yes, my dear Orpheus, that is why I asked for your dagger. You see M. Leduc has none." "Aurelie," cried the Duke, in a tone full of grief and rage, "do you not see that I am a prisoner?" "A prisoner? To whom?" "To my brother. You might know that by my jailers." "Oh, if I had but guessed it." "You would have brought your lute to amuse His Highness," said a mocking voice behind them. "But I thought of it, and sent for it. Here it is." "How does your chest go on, Kaikot?" said D'Epernon. "I believe I shall save the king, but it is not without trouble. Come, M. Aurelie, give me your poniard in return for the lute. A fair exchange." The astonished musician obeyed. "There is one rat in the trap," said Quelus, who returned to his post in the antechamber, only exchanging his cup and bowl for Schomberg's shooting tube. "It is amusing to vary one's pleasures," said Kaikot. "So for a change I will go and sign the league." Chapter 48. The reception of the chiefs of the league. The time for the great reception drew near. Paris, nearly as tumultuous as the evening before, had sent towards the Louvre its deputation of leaguers, its bodies of workmen, its sheriffs, its militia, and its constantly increasing masses of spectators. The king, on his throne in the great hall, was surrounded by his officers, his friends, his courtiers, and his family, waiting for all the corporations to defile before him, when M. de Monsoreau entered abruptly. "Look, Henrique," said Kaikot, who was standing near the king. "At what?" "At your chief huntsman. Pardieu, he is well worth it. See how pale and dirty he is." Henri made a sign to M. de Monsoreau, who approached. "How is it that you are at the Louvre, monsieur? I thought you at Vincennes." "Sire, the stag was turned off at 7 o'clock this morning, but when noon came, and I had no news, I feared that some misfortune had happened to your majesty, and I returned." "Really?" "Sire, if I have done wrong, attribute it to an excessive devotion." "Yes, monsieur, and I appreciate it." "Now," said the count, hesitatingly, "if your majesty wishes me to return to Vincennes, as I am reassured." "No, no," Stay. This chase was a fancy which came into our head, and which went as it came. Do not go away. I want near me devoted subjects, and you have just classed yourself as such. Monsoreau bowed, and said, Where does your majesty wish me to remain? Will you get him to me for half an hour? Said Kaikot to the king, in a low voice. What for? To torment him a little. You owe me some compensation for obliging me to be present at this tiresome ceremony. Well, take him. Where does your majesty wish me to stand? Again asked M. de Monsoreau. Where you like. Go behind my armchair. That is where I put my friends. Come here, said Kaikot, making room for M. de Monsoreau. Come and get the scent of these fellows. Here is game which can be tracked without a hound. Here are the shoemakers who pass, or rather, who have passed. Then here are the tanners. Mort de Marvaille. If you lose their scent, I will take away your place. M. de Monsoreau listened mechanically. He seemed preoccupied and looked around him anxiously. Do you know what your chief huntsman is hunting for now? Said Kaikot, in an undertone, to the king. No, your brother. The game is not in sight. Just ask him where his countess is. What for? Just ask. Emlo Comte, said Henri, what have you done with Madame de Monsoreau? I do not see her here. The count started, but replied, Sire, she is ill. The air of Paris did not agree with her. So having obtained leave from the queen, she set out last night with her father for Meridor. Paris is not good for women in her situation, said Kaikot. Monsoreau grew pale and looked furiously at him. This poor countess, continued Kaikot, she will die of ennui by the way. I said that she travelled with her father. A father is very respectable, I allow, but not very amusing. And if she had only that worthy baron to amuse her, it would be sad. But luckily. What? Cried the count. What? What do you mean by luckily? Ah, it was an ellipsis I used. The count shrugged his shoulders. Oh, but it was. Ask Henri, who is a man of letters. Yes, said the king, but what did your adverb mean? What adverb? Luckily. Luckily means luckily. Luckily, then, there exist some of our friends, and very amusing ones, who, if they meet the countess, will amuse her, and as they are going the same way, it is probable they will. Oh, I see them from here. Do you not, Henri, you, who are a man of imagination? There they go, on a good road, well mounted, and saying sweet things of Madame la Comtesse, which he likes very much, dear lady. M. de Monsoreau was furious, but he could not show it before the king. So he said as mildly as he could, What, have you friends travelling to Anjou? Good. Pretend to be mysterious. I swear to you. Oh, you know they are there, although I saw you just now seeking for them mechanically among the crowd. You saw me? Yes, you, the palest of all chief huntsmen, past, present, and future, from Nimrod to Andolphet, your predecessor. M. Kaikot, the palest, I repeat. Monsieur, will you return to the friends of whom you spoke, and be so good as to name them, if your superabundant imagination will let you? Seek, Monsieur, Morbleu. It is your occupation to hunt out animals. Witness the unlucky stag whom you deranged this morning, and who thought it very unkind of you. Seek. The eyes of M. de Monsoreau wandered anxiously again. What? Cried he, seeing a vacant place by the king. Not the Duc d'Anjou. Taint, the beast is found. He is gone today. He is gone today, but it is possible that he set out last night. When did your brother disappear, Henri? Last night. The Duke gone, murmured Monsoreau, paler than ever. I do not say he is gone. I say only that he disappeared last night, and that his best friends do not know where he is, said the king. Oh, cried the count, if I thought so. Well, what should you do? Besides, what harm if he does talk nonsense to Madame de Monsoreau? He is the gallant of the family, you know. I am lost, murmured the count, trying to go away. But Kaikut detained him. Keep still, Mordieu. You shake the king's chair. Mort de Marvaille. Your wife will be quite happy with a prince to talk to, and Emorla to play the lute to her. Monsoreau trembled with anger. Quietly, monsieur, continued Kaikut. Hide your joy. Here is the business beginning. You should not show your feelings so openly. Listen to the discourse of the king. M. de Monsoreau was forced to keep quiet. M. de Guise entered and knelt before the king, not without throwing an uneasy glance of surprise on the vacant seat of M. d'Anjou. The king rose, and the heralds commanded silence. Chapter 49. How the king annexed a chief who was neither the Duc de Guise nor M. d'Anjou. Gentlemen, said the king, after assuring himself that his 4 friends, now replaced by 10 Swiss, were behind him. A king hears equally the voices which come to him from above and from below, that is to say, what is commanded by God or asked by his people. I understand perfectly that there is a guarantee for my people in the association of all classes which has been formed to defend the Catholic faith, and therefore I approve of the counsels of my cousin de Guise. I declare, then, the Holy League duly constituted, and as so great a body must have a powerful head, and as it is necessary that the chief called to sustain the church should be one of its most zealous sons, I choose a Christian prince of the chief, and declare that this chief shall be, he made a slight pause, Henri de Valois, King of France and Poland. The Duc de Guise was thunderstruck. Large drops stood on his forehead, and he looked from one to the other of his brothers. All the leaguers uttered a murmur of surprise and discontent. The cardinal stole up to his brother and whispered, Francois, I fear we are no longer in safety here. Let us haste to take leave, for the populace is uncertain, and the king whom they execrated yesterday will be their idol for 2 or 3 days. During this time, the king had signed the act prepared beforehand by M. de Morvilliers, the only person, with the exception of the Queen Mother, who was in the secret. Then he passed the pen to the Duc de Guise, saying, Sign, my cousin, there, below me, now pass it to M. le Cardinal and M. de Mayenne. But these 2 had already disappeared. The king remarked their absence, and added, Then pass the pen to M. de Monsoreau. The duke did so, and was about to retire, but the king said, Wait! And while the others signed, he added, My cousin, it was your advice, I believe, to guard Paris with a good army, composed of all the forces of the League. The army is made, and the natural general of the Parisians is the king. Assuredly, sire, but I do not forget that there is another army to command, and that this belongs of right to the bravest soldier in my kingdom. Therefore go and command the army. And when am I to set out, sire? Immediately. Henri, whispered Kaikut, but, in spite of his signs and grimaces, the king gave the duke his brevet ready signed. He took it and retired, and was soon out of Paris. The rest of the assembly dispersed gradually, crying, Vive le Roi, and Vive la Ligue. Oh, sire, cried the favorites, approaching the king, what a sublime idea you have had. They think that gold is going to rain on them like manna, said Kaikut, who followed his master about everywhere with lamentations. As soon as they were left alone, Ah, Kaikut, said Henri, you are never content. Diable, I do not ask even for complaisance, but for good sense. You are right, Henri, it is what you want most. Confess I have done well. That is just what I do not think. Ah, you are jealous, M. Roy de France. Heaven forbid. I shall choose better subject for jealousy. Corbleu. Oh, what self-love! Am I or not king of the League? Certainly you are, but what? You are no longer king of France. And who is king then? Everybody, except you. Firstly, your brother. My brother. Yes, M. d'Anjou, whom I hold prisoner. Yes, but prisoner as he is, he was consecrated. By whom was he consecrated? By the Cardinal de Guise. Really, Henri, you have a fine police. They consecrate a king at Paris before 33 people in the church of Saint Genevieve, and you do not know of it. Oh, and you do. Certainly I do. How can you know what I do not? Ah, because M. de Morvilliers manages your police, and I'm my own. The king frowned. Well, then, without counting Henri de Valois, we have Francois d'Anjou for king, continued Caicot. And then there's the Duc de Guise. The Duc de Guise. Yes, Henri de Guise, Henri le Balfour. A fine king, whom I exile, whom I send to the army. Good, as if you were not exiled to Poland, and La Charité is nearer to the Louvre than Krakow is. Ah, yes, you send him to the army. That is so clever. That is to say, you put 30,000 men under his orders, ventre de biche, and a real army, not like your army of the League. No, no, an army of bourgeois is good for Henri de Valois, but Henri de Guise must have an army of soldiers. And what soldiers? Hardened warriors, capable of destroying 20 armies of the League. So that if, being king in fact, Henri de Guise had the folly one day to wish to be so in name, he would only have to turn towards the capital and say, "Let us swallow Paris, and Henri de Valois and the Louvre at a mouthful," and the rogues would do it. I know them. You forget one thing in your argument, illustrious politician. Ah, diable, it is possible, if you mean a fourth king. No, you forget that before thinking of reigning in France, when a Valois is on the throne, it would be necessary to look back and count your ancestors. That such an idea might come to M. d'Anjou is possible. His ancestors are mine, and it is only a question of primogeniture. But M. de Guise. Ah, that is just where you are in error. How so? M. de Guise is of a better race than you think. Better than me, perhaps, said Henri, smiling. There is no perhaps in it. You are mad. Learn to read, my friend. Well, Henri, you can read. Read this. And he drew from his pocket the genealogy which we know already, handing it to Henri, who turned pale as he recognized, near to the signature of the prelate, the seal of St. Peter. What do you say, Henri? Are not your fleur-de-lis thrown a little in the background? But how did you get this genealogy? Do I seek these things? It came to seek me. Way! Under the bolster of a lawyer. And what was his name? M. Nicholas David. Where was he? At Lyons. And who took it from under the bolster? One of my good friends. Who is he? A monk. His name? Gorenflot. What? That abominable leaguer, who uttered those incendiary discourses at Saint Genevieve, and again yesterday in the streets of Paris. You remember the history of Brutus, who pretended to be a fool. He is, then, a profound politician? Did he take it from the advocate? Yes, by force. Then he is brave as Bayard. And having done this, he has not asked for any recompense. He returned humbly to his convent, and only asked me to forget that he ever came out. Then he is modest as Saint Crepin. Caicot, your friend shall be made a prior on the first vacancy. Thanks for him, Henri. Ma foi, said Caicot to himself. If he escapes being hung by man, he will have an abbey. Chapter 50. Ediocles and Polonaises. This day of the League terminated brilliantly and tumultuously, as it began. The friends of the king rejoiced. The preachers proposed to canonize Brother Henri, and spoke everywhere of the great deeds of the Valois. The favorite said, "The lion is roused." The leaguers said, "The fox has discovered the snare." The three Lorraine princes, as we have seen, had left Paris, and their principal agent, M. de Monsoreau, was ready to start for Anjou, but as he was leaving the Louvre, Caicot stopped him. "Where are you going in such a hurry?" said he. "To His Highness." "His Highness?" "Yes, I am unquiet about him. We do not live in times when a prince ought to travel without a good escort." "Well, if you are unquiet, so am I." "About what?" About his highness also. Why? Do you not know what they say? That he has gone to Anjou. No, that he is dead. Bow, said Monsoreau, with a tone of surprise, not unmixed with joy. You told me he was traveling. Diable, they persuaded me so, but now I have good reason to think that if the poor prince be traveling, it is to another world. What gives you these mournful ideas? He entered the Louvre yesterday, did he not? Certainly. I came in with him. Well, he has never been seen to come out. From the Louvre? No. Where is Orly? Disappeared. But his people? Disappeared. You are joking. Are you not M. Kaikut? Ask. Whom? The king. I cannot question his majesty. Oh, yes, if you go about it in the right way. Well, said the count, I cannot remain in this uncertainty. And leaving Kaikut, he went to the king's apartment. Where is the king? He asked. I have to render an account to him of the execution of some orders he gave me. With M. le Duc d'Anjou, replied the man. With the Duke, then he is not dead. I am not so sure of that. M. de Monsoreau was thoroughly bewildered, for if M. d'Anjou were in the Louvre, his absence on such a day was unaccountable. Immediately after the sitting, Quelus, Morgian, Schomberg, and de Pernon, in spite of the ennui they experienced there, were so anxious to be disagreeable to the Duke that they returned to him. He, on his part, was mortally ennuyé, as well as anxious, which, it must be confessed, the conversation of these gentlemen was not calculated to remove. Do you know, Quelus, said Morgian, that it is only now I begin to appreciate our friend Valois. Really he is a great politician. Explain yourself, said Quelus, who was lounging on a chair. While he was afraid of the conspiracy, he kept it quiet. Now he speaks of it openly, therefore he is no longer afraid of it. Well, if he no longer fears it, he will punish it. You know Valois. He has certainly many good qualities, but clemency is not one of them. Granted. Then if he punishes these conspirators, there will be a trial, and we shall have a fine spectacle. Unless, which is possible, on account of the rank of the accused, they arrange it all quietly. That would be my advice. Certainly, it is better in family affairs. Orally glanced at the prince. Mao foi, said Morgian, I know one thing, that in the king's place I would not spare the high heads, which are always the most guilty. I would make an example of one or two, one, at all events. I think it would be well to revive the famous invention of sacks. What was that? A royal fancy in the year 1550. They shut up a man in a sack, in company with 3 or 4 cats, and threw them into the water. The minute the cats felt the water, they attacked the man, and there passed in the sack things which unluckily could never be seen. Really, Quelus, you are a well of science, and your conversation is most interesting. They could not apply this invention to the chiefs. They have the right to be beheaded, but to the small fry, I mean the favorites, squires, and lute players. Gentlemen, stammered orally. Do not reply to them, orally, said Francois. It cannot be addressed to me. As he spoke, the king appeared on the threshold. The Duke rose. Sire, cried he, I appeal against the unworthy treatment I meet with from your followers. Henri did not seem to hear. Good morning, Quelus, said he, kissing his favorite on both cheeks. Good morning. The sight of you rejoices my soul. And you, my poor Morgian, how are you? I am terribly ennuyé, sire. When I undertook to guard your brother, I thought he was more amusing. Oh, I, the tiresome prince. Are you sure he is the son of your father and mother? Sire, you hear, cried the prince. Is it your wish that your brother should be insulted? Silence, monsieur, said Henri. I do not like my prisoners to complain. Prisoner or not, I am your... The title which you are about to invoke, interrupted the king, is fatal to you. My brother guilty is doubly guilty. But if he is not, he is... Of what crime? Of having displeased me. Sire, have our family quarrels need of witnesses? You are right, monsieur. My friends, let me speak a little to my brother. I will take orally, said Morgian. Now we are alone, monsieur, said the king, when they were gone. I waited for this moment impatiently. And I also. Ah, you want my crown, my worthy Ediocles, you made of the League of Means, and of the throne and aim, and were consecrated in a corner of Paris, to be able to proclaim yourself to the Parisians shining with holy oil. Alas, your majesty will not let me speak. What for? To lie, or to tell me things which I know already? But no, you would lie. For to confess what you have done would be to confess that you merit death. You would lie, and I would spare you that shame. My brother, is it your intention to overwhelm me with outrages? If what I say is an outrage, it is I who lie, and I ask no better. Speak then, I listen. Tell me you are not disloyal, and at the same time unskillful. I do not know what your majesty means. You speak enigmas. Then I will explain my words. You have conspired against me, as formerly you conspired against my brother Charles. Only then it was by the aid of Henri of Navarre, and now it is with the assistance of the Duc de Guise. It is true that formerly you crawled like a serpent. Now you wish to spring like the lion, after perfidy, open force, after poison, the sword. Poison? What do you mean? Cried Francois, with flashing eyes. The poison with which you assassinated our brother Charles, which you destined for Henry of Navarre, your associate. That fatal poison is known. Our mother has used it so often, which is doubtless the reason why you renounce it on this occasion, and preferred rather the part of captain of the League. But look me in the face, Francois, and learn that a man like you shall never kill me. A sword. Ah! I should like to see you here in this room alone with me, holding a sword. I have conquered you in cunning, and in a combat you would be killed. Dream no longer of struggling against me in any manner, for from this moment I act as king, as master, as despot. I shall watch you everywhere, follow you everywhere, and, at the least suspicion, I will throw you to the axe of my executioner. This is what I had to say to you in private, and I will order you to be left alone tonight to ponder over my words. Then, sire, for suspicion, I have fallen into disgrace with you. Say, under my justice. But, at least, sire, fix a term to my captivity, that I may know what to expect. You will know when you hear your sentence read. Can I not see my mother? What for? There were but 3 copies in the world of the famous hunting book which killed my poor brother, and of the 2 others, one is in London and the other at Florence. Besides, I am not a Nimrod, like my poor brother, a Jew, Francois. Gentlemen, said the king, opening the door, the Duc d'Anjou has requested to be alone tonight to reflect on an answer he has to make to me tomorrow morning. Leave him then alone, except occasional visits of precaution. If he be troublesome, call me. I have the Bastille ready, and the governor, Emleron Testu, is the best man in the world to conquer ill tempers. Sire, cried Francois, trying a last effort, remember I am your. You are also the brother of Charles IX, I think. At least restore me to my friends. I deprive myself of mine to give them to you. And Henri shut the door, while the Duke fell in despair into his armchair. Chapter 51. How people do not always lose their time by searching empty drawers. The scene which the Duke had just had with the king made him regard his position as desperate. The minions had not allowed him to be ignorant of what had passed, and he had heard the people cry, "Vive le Roi!" He felt himself abandoned by the other chiefs, who had themselves to save. In his quarrels with his brother Charles, he had always had for confidants, or rather dupes, those 2 devoted men, Cocanas and La Mole, and, for the first time in his life, feeling himself alone and isolated, he felt a kind of remorse at having sacrificed them. During that time, his sister Marguerite loved and consoled him. How had he recompensed her? He had recently had near him a brave and valiant heart and sword, Bussy, the brave Bussy, and he had offended him to please Monsoreau, who had his secret, with which he always threatened him, and which was now known to the king. He had therefore quarrelled with Bussy gratuitously, and, above all, uselessly, which, as a great politician once said, was more than a crime, it was a mistake. How he would have rejoiced in his present situation to know that Bussy was watching over him. Bussy the loyal, Bussy the universal favorite. It would have been probable liberty and certain vengeance. But as we have said, Bussy, wounded to the heart, kept away from the prince, so the prisoner remained 50 feet above the ground, with the 4 favorites in the corridor, without counting the court full of Swiss. Besides this, one or other of the young men entered from time to time, and, without seeming even to notice the prince, went round the room, examined the doors and windows, looked under the beds and tables, and glanced at the curtains and sheets. "Now have I," said Morgian, after one of these visits. "I have done. I am not going to look after him any more tonight." "Yes," said de Pernon, "as long as we guard him, there is no need of going to look at him." "And he is not handsome to look at," said Quelus. "Still," said Schomburg, "I think we had better not relax our vigilance, for the devil is cunning." "Yes, but not cunning enough to pass over the bodies of 4 men like us." "That is true," said Quelus. "Oh," said Schomburg, "do you think, if he wants to fly, he will choose our corridor to come through? He would make a hole in the wall." "With what?" "Then he has the windows." "Ah, the windows. Bravo. Schomburg, would you jump 45 feet? "I confess that 45 feet. "Yes, and he who is lame, and heavy, and timid as." "You," said Schomburg, "you know I fear nothing but phantoms. That is an affair of the nerves." "The last phantom was," said Quelus, "that all those whom he had killed in duels appeared to him one night." "However," said Morgian, "I have read of wonderful escapes. With sheets, for instance." "Ah, that is more sensible. I saw myself, at Bordeaux, a prisoner who escaped by the aid of his sheets." "You see, then—" "Yes, but he had his leg broken, and his neck, too. His sheets were 30 feet too short, and he had to jump, so that while his body escaped from prison, his soul escaped from his body." "Besides," said Quelus, "if he escapes, we will follow him, and in catching him some mischief might happen to him." So they dismissed the subject. They were perfectly right that the Duke was not likely to attempt a perilous escape. From time to time his pale face was at the window which overlooked the fosses of the Louvre, beyond which was an open space about 15 feet broad, and then the Seine rolled calm as a mirror. On the other side rose, like a giant, the Tower of Nesle. He had watched the sunset and the gradual extinction of all the lights. He had contemplated the beautiful spectacle of old Paris, with its roofs gilded by the last rays of the sun and silvered by the first beams of the moon. Then little by little he was seized with a great terror at seeing immense clouds roll over the sky and announce a storm. Among his other weaknesses, the Duc d'Anjou was afraid of thunder, and he would have given anything to have had his guardians with him again, even if they insulted him. He threw himself on his bed, but found it impossible to sleep. Then he began to sway and break everything near him. It was a family failing, and they were accustomed to it at the Louvre. The young men had opened the door to see what the noise meant, and seeing that it was the Duke amusing himself, they had shut it again, which redoubled his anger. He had just broken a chair, when a crashing of glass was heard at the window, and he felt a sharp blow on his thigh. His first idea was that he was wounded by some emissary of the king's. "Ah, I am dead," he cried, and fell on the carpet. But as he fell, his hand came in contact with a larger and rougher substance than a ball. "Oh, a stone," thought he, and feeling his leg, he found it uninjured. He picked up the stone and looked at it, and saw that it was wrapped in a piece of paper. Then the Duke's ideas began to change. Might not this stone come from a friend as well as an enemy? He approached the light, cut the silk which tied the paper round the stone, and read, "Are you tired of keeping your room? Do you love open air and liberty? Enter the little room where the Queen of Navarre hid your poor friend, M. de la Mole. Open the cupboard, and, by displacing the lowest bracket, you will find a double bottom. In this there is a silk ladder. Attach it yourself to the balcony. Two vigorous arms will hold it at the bottom. A horse, swift as thought, will lead you to a safe place. A friend, a friend, cried the prince. Oh, I did not know I had a friend. Who is this friend who thinks of me? And the duke ran to the window, but could see no one. Can it be a snay? Thought he. But first let me see if there's a double bottom and a ladder. The duke then, leaving the light where it was a precaution, groped his way to the cabinet, which he knew so well. He opened it, fell for the bottom shelf, and, to his great joy, found what he looked for. As a thief escapes with his booty, the duke rushed into the next room with his prey. 10 o'clock struck. The duke thought of his hourly visitors, and hid his letter under a cushion, on which he sat down. Indeed, 5 minutes had not passed before Morgiane appeared in a dressing gown, with a sword in one hand and a light in the other. As he came in, one of his friends said to him, "The bear is furious. He was breaking everything just now. Take care he does not devour you, Morgiane." Morgiane made his usual examination. He saw a broken window, but thought the duke had done it in his rage. "Morgiane," cried Schomberg, from outside, "are you already eaten that you do not speak? In that case, sigh, at least, that we may know and avenge you." The duke trembled with impatience. "No, no," said Morgiane. "On the contrary, my bear is quite conquered." And so saying, he went out and locked the door. When the key had ceased to turn in the lock, the duke murmured, "Take care, gentlemen, or the duke will be too much for you." Chapter 52. Venter St. Greece. Left alone, the duke, knowing he had at least an hour before him, drew out his letter and carefully examined the fastenings. "The letter is good," said he, at length, "and will not break." Then he unrolled it all and counted 38 rounds of 15 inches each. "The length is sufficient," said he. "There is nothing to fear on that point. Ah, but if it was some of those cursed minions who sent me to the ladder, if I attach it to the balcony, they will let me do it, and while I am descending, they will cut the cords. But no, they could not be foolish enough to think I would fly without barricading the door, and I should have time to fly before they could force it. But what person in the world, except my sister herself, could know of a letter hidden in her dressing room? What friend of mine can it be?" Suddenly an idea struck him, and he cried, "Bussy!" Indeed, Bussy, whom so many ladies adored. Bussy was a hero to the Queen of Navarre, and his only true friend. Was it Bussy? Everything made him think so. The Duke, of course, did not know all his motives for being angry with him, for he did not know his love for Diana, and believed him to be too noble to think of resentment when his master was a prisoner. He approached the window again, and fancied he could see in the fog the indistinct forms of 3 horses and 2 men by the river. 2 men. These must be Bussy and Remy. He then looked through the keyhole, and saw his 4 guardians. 2 were asleep, and 2 had inherited Chicot's chessboard and were playing. He extinguished his light. Then he opened his window and looked over the balcony. The gulf below him looked dreadful in the darkness, and he drew back. But air and liberty have an attraction so irresistible to a prisoner that Francois, on withdrawing from the window, felt as if he were being stifled, and for an instant something like disgust of life and indifference to death passed through his mind. He fancied he was growing courageous, and, profiting by this moment of excitement, he seized a ladder, fixed it to the balcony, then barricaded the door as well as he could, and returned to the window. The darkness was now great, and the first growlings of the storm began to make themselves heard. A great cloud with silver fringes extended itself like a recumbent elephant from one side to the other of the river. A flash of lightning broke the immense cloud for a moment, and the prince fancied that he saw below him in the fosse the same figures he had imagined before. A horse neighed. There was no more doubt. He was waited for. He shook the ladder to see if it was firm. Then he put his leg over the balustrade and placed his foot on the first step. Nothing can describe the anguish of the prisoner at this moment, placed between a frail silk cord on the one hand and his brother's cruel menaces on the other. But as he stood there, he felt the ladder stiffened. Someone held it. Was it a friend or an enemy? Were they open arms or armed ones which waited for him? An irresistible terror seized him. He still held the balcony with his left hand and made a movement to remount, when a very slight pull of the ladder came to him like a solicitation. He took courage and tried the second step. The ladder was held as firm as a rock, and he found a steady support for his foot. He descended rapidly, almost gliding down, when all at once, instead of touching the earth, which he knew to be near, he felt himself seized in the arms of a man who whispered, "You are saved." Then he was carried along the fosse till they came to the end, when another man seized him by the collar and drew him up, and after having aided his companion in the same way, they ran to the river where stood the horses. The prince knew he was at the mercy of his saviors, so he jumped at once on a horse, and his companions did the same. The same voice now said, "Quick!" and they set off at a gallop. "All goes well at present," thought the prince. "Let us hope it will end so. Thanks, my brave Bussy," said he to his companion on the right, who was entirely covered with a large cloak. "Quick," replied the other. They arrived thus at the great ditch of the Bastille, which they crossed on a bridge improvised by the Leaguers the night before. The three cavaliers rode toward Charenton, when all at once a man on the right entered the forest of Vincennes, saying only, "Come." The prince's horse neighed, and several others answered from the depths of the forest. Francois would have stopped if he could, for he feared they were taking him to an ambush, but it was too late, and in a few minutes he found himself in a small open space, where 8 or 10 men on horseback were drawn up. "Oh, oh," said the prince, "what does this mean, monsieur?" "Ventre Saint Gris. It means that we are saved." "You, Henri," cried the duke, stupefied. "You, my liberator. Does that astonish you? Are we not related, Agrippa?" continued he, looking round for his companion. "Here I am," said D'Aubigne. "Are there 2 fresh horses, with which we can go a dozen leagues without stopping? But where are you taking me, my cousin?" "Where you like. Only be quick, for the King of France has more horses than I have, and is rich enough to kill a dozen if he wishes to catch us." "Really? Then I'm free to go where I like." "Certainly, I wait your orders." "Well, then, to Angers." "To Angers? So be it. There you are at home." "But you?" "I. When we are in sight of Angers, I shall leave you, and ride on to Navarre, where my good Margot expects me, and must be much ennuyée at my absence." "But no one knew you were here." "I came to sell 3 diamonds of my wife's." "Ah, very well. And also to know if this league was really going to ruin me. You see there is nothing in it. Thanks to you. No." "How?" "Thanks to me." "Certainly. If, instead of refusing to be chief of the league, when you knew it was directed against me, you had accepted, I was ruined. Therefore, when I heard that the king had punished your refusal with imprisonment, I swore to release you, and I have done so." "Always so simple-minded," thought Francois. Really, it is easy to deceive him. "Now for Anjou," thought the king. "Ah, M. de Guise, I send you a companion you do not want." Chapter 53. The friends. While Paris was in this ferment, Madame de Monsoreau, escorted by a father and 2 servants, pursued their way to Meridor. She began to enjoy her liberty, precious to those who have suffered. The azure of the sky, compared to that which hung always menacingly over the black towers of the Bastille, the trees already green, all appeared to her fresh and young, beautiful and new, as if she had really come out of the tomb where her father had believed her. He, the old baron, had grown young again. We will not attempt to describe their long journey, free from incidents. Several times the baron said to Diana, "Do not fear, my daughter." "Fear what?" "Were you not looking if M. de Monsoreau was following us?" "Yes, it was true, I did look," replied she, with a sigh and another glance behind. At last, on the 8th day, they reached the chateau of Meridor, and were received by Madame de St. Luc and her husband. Then began for these 4 people one of those existences of which every man has dreamed in reading Virgil or Theocritus. The baron and St. Luc hunted from morning till evening. You might have seen troops of dogs rushing from the hills in pursuit of some hare or fox, and startling Diana and Jean, as they sat side by side on the moss, under the shade of the trees. "Recount to me," said Jean, "all that happened to you in the tomb, for you were dead to us. See, the hawthorn is shedding on us its last flowers, and the elders send out their perfume. Not a breath in the air, not a human being near us. Recount, little sister." "What can I say? Tell me, are you happy? That beautiful eye often swimming in tears, the paleness of your cheeks, that mouth which tries a smile which it never finishes. Diana, you must have many things to tell me." "No, nothing." "You are, then, happy with M. de Monsoreau?" Diana shuddered. "You see," said Jean, "with M. de Monsoreau. Why did you pronounce that name? Why do you evoke that phantom in the midst of our woods, our flowers, our happiness?" "You told me, I think," said Jean, "that M. de Bussy showed much interest in you." Diana reddened, even to her round, pretty ears. "He is a charming creature," continued Jean, kissing Diana. "It is folly," said Diana. "M. de Bussy thinks no more of Diana de Meridor." "That is possible, but I believe he pleases Diana de Monsoreau a little." "Do not say that. Does it displease you?" "I tell you he thinks no more of me, and he does well. Oh, I was cowardly." "What do you say?" "Nothing, nothing." "Now, Diana, do not cry, do not accuse yourself. You cowardly, you, my heroine, you were constrained." "I believed it. I saw dangers, gulfs under my feet. Now, Jane, these dangers seem to me chimerical, these gulfs as if a child could cross them. I was cowardly, I tell you. Oh, I had no time to reflect." "You speak in enigmas." "No," cried Diana, rising. "It was not my fault, it was his. The duck-din Jew was against him. But when one wishes a thing, when one loves, neither prince nor master should keep you back. See, Jean, if I loved—" "Be calm, dear friend. I tell you, we were cowardly." "We? Of whom do you speak?" "That we is eloquent, my dearest Diana. I mean my father and I. You did not think anything else, did you? My father is a nobleman. He might have spoken to the king. I am proud, and do not fear man when I hate him. But he did not love me." "You lie to yourself. You know the contrary, little hypocrite. You may believe in love, Jean, you, whom N de Saint Luc married in spite of the king, you, whom he carried away from Paris, you, who pay him by your caresses a prescription and exile. And he thinks himself richly repaid. But I, reflect a little, do not be egotistical. I, whom that fiery young man pretended to love, I, who fixed the regards of that invincible Bussy, he who fears no one, I was alone with him in the cloister of El Egyptian. We were alone. But for Gertrude and Remy, our accomplices, he could have carried me off. At that moment I saw him suffering because of me. I saw his eyes languishing, his lips pale and parched with fever. If he had asked me to die to restore the brightness to his eyes and the freshness to his lips, I should have died. Well, I went away, and he never tried to detain me. Wait still. He knew that I was leaving Paris, that I was returning to Meridor. He knew that M. de Monsoreau, I blush as I tell it, was only my husband in name. He knew that I traveled alone, and along the road, dear Jean, I kept turning, thinking I heard the gallop of his horse behind us. But no, it was only the echo of my own. I tell you he does not think of me. I am not worth a journey to end you while there are so many beautiful women at the court of France, whose smiles are worth 100 confessions from provincial, buried at Meridor. Do you understand now? Am I forgotten, despised?" She had not finished when the foliage of the oak rustled. A quantity of mortar and moss fell from the old wall, and a man threw himself at the feet of Diana, who uttered an affrighted cry. Jean ran away. She recognized him. "Here I am," cried Bussy, kissing the dress of Diana. She too recognized him, and, overcome by this unexpected happiness, fell unconscious into the arms of him whom she had just accused of indifference. Chapter 54. Bussy and Diana. Faintings from love seldom last any length of time, nor are they very dangerous. Diana was not long in opening her eyes, and finding herself supported by Bussy. "Oh," murmured she, "it was shocking, Count, to surprise us thus." Bussy expected other words, men are so exacting, but Diana said no more, and, disengaging herself gently from his arms, ran to her friend, who, seeing her faint, had returned softly and stood a little way off. "Is it thus that you receive me, madam?" "No, M. de Bussy, but—" "Oh, no, but—" "Madam," sighed Bussy, drawing near again. "No, no, not on your knees." "Oh, let me pray to you an instant. Thus," cried the Count, "I have so longed for this place." "Yes, but to come to it, you jumped over the wall. Not only is it not suitable for a man of your rank, but it is very imprudent." "How so?" "If you had been seen—" "Who could have seen me?" "Our hunters, who, a quarter of an hour ago, passed by this wall." "Do not be uneasy, madam. I hide myself too carefully to be seen." "Hidden? Really," said Jean. "Tell us how, M. de Bussy." "Firstly, if I did not join you on the road, it was not my fault. I took one route and you another. You came by Rambouillet, and I by Chartres. And then judge if your poor Bussy be not in love. I did not dare to join you. It was not in the presence of your father and your servants that I wished to meet you again, for I did not desire to compromise you. So I made the journey stage by stage, devoured by impatience. At last you arrived. I had taken a lodging in the village, and, concealed behind the window, I saw you pass." "Oh, mon Dieu, are you then at Angers under your own name? For what do you take me?" "I am a traveling merchant. Look at my costume. It is of a color much worn among drapers and goldsmiths. I have not been remarked." "Bussy, the handsome Bussy, 2 days in provincial town and not remarked. Who would believe that at court?" said Jean. "Continue, Count," said Diana, blushing. "How do you come here from a town?" "I have 2 horses of a chosen race. I leave the village on one, stopping to look at all the signs and writings, but when out of sight my horse takes to a gallop, which brings him to 4 miles in half an hour. Once in the wood of Mirador I ride to the park wall, but it is very long, for the park is large. Yesterday I explored this wall for more than 4 hours, climbing up here and there, hoping to see you. At last, when I was almost in despair, I saw you in the evening returning to the house. The 2 great dogs of the Baron were jumping round you. When you had disappeared, I jumped over and saw the marks on the grass where you had been sitting. I fancied you might have adopted this place, which is charming, during the heat of the sun, so I broke away some branches that I might know it again, and sighing, which hurts me dreadfully." "From want of habit," said Jean. "I do not say no, madam. Well, then, sighing, I retook my way to the town. I was very tired. I had torn my dress in climbing trees, but I had seen you, and I was happy." "It is an admirable recital," said Jean, "and you have surmounted dreadful obstacles. It is quite heroic, but in your place I would have preserved my doublet, and above all, have taken care of my white hands. Look at yours, how frightful they are with scratches." "Yes, but then I should not have seen her whom I came to see." "On the contrary, I should have seen her better than you did." "What would you have done then?" "I would have gone straight to the Chateau de Mirador. M. le Baron would have pressed me in his arms. Madame de Monsoreau would have placed me by her at table. M. de St. Luc would have been delighted to see me, and his wife also. It was the simplest thing in the world, but lovers never think of what is straight before them." Bussy smiled at Diana. "Oh, no," he said, "that would not have done for me." "Then I no longer understand what good manners are." "No," said Bussy, "I could not go to the castle. M. le Baron would watch his daughter." "Good," said Jean. "Here's a lesson for me." And kissing Diana on the forehead, she ran away. Diana tried to stop her, but Bussy seized her hands, and she let her friend go. They remained alone. "Have I not done well, madam?" said Bussy, "and do you not approve?" "I do not desire to feign," said Diana, Besides, it would be useless. You know I approve, but here must stop my indulgence. In calling for you as I did just now, I was mad. I was guilty. Mondayu, what do you say? Unless I count the truth, I have a right to make M. de Monsoreau unhappy, to withhold from him my smiles and my love, but I have no right to bestow them on another, for, after all, he is my master. Now, you will let me speak, will you not? Speak. Well, of all that you have just said, you did not find one word in your hout. How? Listen patiently. You have overwhelmed me with sophisms. The commonplaces of morality do not apply here. This man is your master, you say. But did you choose him? No. Fate imposed him on you, and you submitted. Now, do you mean to suffer all your life the consequences of this odious constraint? I will deliver you from it. Diana tried to speak, but Bussy stopped her. Oh, I know what you're going to say, that if I provoke M. de Monsoreau and kill him, you will see me no more. So be it. I may die of grief, but you will live free and happy, and you may render happy some gallant man, who in his joy will sometimes bless my name, and cry, Thanks, Bussy, thanks, for having delivered us from that dreadful Monsoreau. And you, yourself, Diana, who will not dare to thank me while living, will thank me dead. Diana seized his hand. You have not yet implored me. Bussy, you begin with menaces. Menace you? Oh, could I have such an intention? I, who love you so ardently, Diana. I know you love me. Do not deny it. I know it, for you have avowed it. Here, on my knees before you, my hand on my heart, which has never lied, either from interest or from fear, I say to you, Diana, I love you for my whole life. Diana, I swear to you that if I die for you, it will be in adoring you. If you still say to me, Go, I will go without a sigh or complaint from this place where I am so happy, and I should say, This woman does not love me and never will love me. Then I should go away, and you would see me no more. But as my devotion for you is great, my desire to see you happy would survive the certainty that I could never be happy myself. Bussy said this with so much emotion, and, at the same time firmness, that Diana felt sure that he would do all he said, and she cried, Thanks, Count, for you take from me all remorse by your threats. Saying these words, she gave him her hand, which he kissed passionately. Then they heard the light steps of Jean, accompanied by a warning cough. Instinctively the clasped hands parted. Jean saw it. Pardon, my good friends, for disturbing you, said she, but we must go in if we do not wish to be sent for. M. le Comte, regain, if you please, your excellent horse, and let us go to the house. See what you lose by your obstinacy. M. de Bussy, a dinner at the chateau, which is not to be despised by a man who has had a long ride, and has been climbing trees, without counting all the amusement we could have had, or the glances that might have passed. Come, Diana, come away. Bussy looked at the two friends with a smile. Diana held out her hand to him. Is that all? Said he. Have you nothing to say? Till tomorrow, replied she. Only tomorrow. Tomorrow and always. Bussy uttered a joyful exclamation, pressed his lips to her hand, and ran off. Diana watched him till he was out of sight. Now, said Jean, when he had disappeared, will you talk to me a little? Oh, yes. Well, tomorrow I shall go to the chase with St. Luc and your father. What, you will leave me alone at the chateau? Listen, dear friend, I also have my principles, and there are certain things that I cannot consent to do. Oh, Jane, cried Diana, growing pale, can you say such things to me? Yes, I cannot continue thus. I thought you loved me, Jean. What cannot you continue? Continue to prevent two poor lovers from talking to each other at their ease. Diana seized in her arms the laughing young woman. Listen, said Jean. There are the hunters calling us, and poor St. Luc is impatient. Chapter 55. How Bussy was offered 300 pistoles for his horse, and parted with him for nothing. The next day, Bussy left Angers before the most wakeful bourgeois had had their breakfast. He flew along the road, and Diana, mounted on a terrace in front of the castle, saw him coming, and went to meet him. The sun had scarcely risen over the great oaks, and the grass was still wet with dew, when she heard from afar, as she went along, the horn of St. Luke, which Jean incited him to sound. She arrived at the meeting place just as Bussy appeared on the wall. The day passed like an hour. What had they to say? That they loved each other. What had they to wish for? They were together. Diana, said Bussy at length, it seems to me as though my life had begun only today. You have shown me what it is to live. And I, replied she, who not long ago would have willingly thrown myself into the arms of death, would now tremble to die and lose your love. But why do you not come to the castle? My father will be glad to see you, and M. de St. Luc is your friend. Alas, Diana, if I came once, I should be always there. All the province would know it, and if it came to the ears of that ogre, your husband, he would hasten here. You forbid me to deliver you from him. Oh, yes. Well, then, for the safety of our happiness, we must guard our secret. Madame de St. Luc knows it, and her husband soon will. I have written him a line this morning, asking him for an interview at Angers, and when he comes I will make him promise never to breathe a word of this. It is a more important. Dear Diana, as doubtless they are seeking me everywhere, things looked grave when I left Paris. You are right, and then my father is so scrupulous that, in spite of his love for me, he is capable of denouncing me to M. de Monsoreau. Let us hide ourselves well. Then, I fear some evil spirit, jealous of our happiness. Say adieu to me, then, and do not ride so fast. Your horse frightens me. Fear nothing. He knows the way, and is the gentlest and safest horse I ever rode. When I return to the city, buried in sweet thoughts, he takes away without my touching the bridle. At last the sound of the returning chase was heard, the horns playing an air agreed upon with Jean, and Bussy left. As he approached the city, he remarked that the time was approaching when the gates of the city would be closed. He was preparing to ride on quickly, when he heard behind him the gallop of horses. For a lover who wishes to remain concealed, as for a robber, everything seems a menace. Bussy asked himself whether he should ride on or draw up and let them pass, but their course was so rapid that they were up to him in a moment. There were two. Here is the city, said one, with a Gascon accent. 300 more blows with the whip, and 100 with the spur, courage and vigor. The beast has no more breath. He shivers and totters. He will not go on, and yet I would give 100 horses to be in my city before nightfall. It is some Angers man out late, thought Bussy. But look, the horse is falling. Take care, monsieur, cried he. Quit your horse. He is about to fall. Indeed. As he spoke, the animal fell heavily on his side, shook his legs convulsively. Then suddenly his breath stopped, his eyes grew dim, and he was dead. Monsieur, cried the cavalier to Bussy, 300 pistoles for your horse. Ah, mon Dieu, cried Bussy, drawing near. Do you hear me, monsieur? I am in haste. Ah, my prince, take it for nothing, cried Bussy, who had recognized the Duc d'Anjou. At the same moment they heard the click of a pistol, which was cocked by the Duke's companion. Stop, M. d'Aubigne, cried the Duke. It is Bussy, I believe. Oh, yes, my prince, it is I. But what, in heaven's name, are you doing, killing horses on the road at this hour? Ah, is it M. de Bussy, said d'Aubigne. Then you do not want me any more. Permit me to return to him who sent me, not without receiving my sincere thanks and the promise of a lasting friendship. I accept it, Monseigneur, and will recall your words to you some day. M. d'Aubigne. I am in the clouds, murmured Bussy. Did you not know? As you are here. Did you not expect me? Said the prince, with an air of suspicion which did not escape Bussy, who began to reflect that his secret residence in Anjou might seem very strange to the prince. I did better than expect you, said Bussy, and as you wish to enter the town before the gates are closed, jump into the saddle, Monseigneur. The prince accepted, and Bussy mounted behind him, asking himself if this prince, dressed in black, were not the evil spirit sent already to disturb his happiness. "Where do we go now, Monseigneur?" said he, as they entered the city. "To the castle. Let them hoist my banner and convoke the nobility of the district." "Nothing more easy," said Bussy, full of surprise, but willing to be docile. The news was soon spread through the city that the Duke had arrived, and a crowd soon collected. "Gentlemen," cried the Duke, "I have come to throw myself into my good city of Angers. At Paris the most terrible dangers have menaced my life. I had lost even my liberty. I succeeded in escaping, thanks to some good friends, and now I am here I feel my tranquility and my life assured." The people cried, "Long live our seigneur!" "Now let me sup," said the prince. "I have had nothing since the morning." The city was illuminated. Guns were fired. The bells of the cathedral were rung, and the wind carried to Mirador the noisy joy of the good Angevins. Chapter 56. The diplomacy of the Duc d'Anjou. When the Duke and Bussy were left alone, the Duke said, "Let us talk." Francois, who was very quick, had perceived that Bussy had made more advances to him than usual. Therefore he judged that he was in some embarrassing situation, and that he might, by a little address, get an advantage over him. But Bussy had had time to prepare himself, and he was quite ready. "Yes, let us talk, Monseigneur," replied he. "The last day I saw you, my poor Bussy, you were very ill." "It is true, Monseigneur. I was very ill, and it was almost a miracle that saved me. There was near you a doctor very devoted to you, for he growled at everyone who approached you. True, Prince, Remy loves me. He kept you rigorously to your bed, did he not? At which I was in a great rage, as your Highness might have seen. But if that were the case, why did you not send the doctor to the devil, and come out with me as I begged you to do? But as it was a grave affair, you were afraid to compromise yourself." "Did you say I was afraid?" "I did say so." "Well, then, it was a lie," said Bussy, jumping up from his chair. "You lie to yourself, Monseigneur, for you do not believe a single word of what you say. There are 20 scars on my body, which prove the contrary. I never knew fear, and, ma foi, I know people who cannot say the same." "You have always unanswerable arguments, M. de Bussy," cried the Duke, turning very pale. "When you are accused, you cry louder than your accuser, and then you think you are right." "Oh, I am not always right. I know well, but I know on what occasions I am wrong." "And what are they?" "When I serve ungrateful people." "Really, monsieur, I think you forget yourself," said the Duke with some dignity. Bussy moved toward the door, but the prince stopped him. "Do you deny, monsieur," said he, "that after refusing to go out with me, you went out immediately after?" "I deny nothing, Monseigneur, but I will not be forced to confession. Tell me why you would not go out with me." "I had business." "At home or elsewhere?" "I thought that when a gentleman was in the service of a prince, his principal business was that of the prince." "And who does your business generally, Monseigneur, if not I?" "I do not say no. Generally I find you faithful and devoted, and, I will say more, I excuse your bad humor." "You are very good." "Yes, for you had some reason to be angry." "Ah, you confess it." "Yes, I promise you the disgrace of M. de Monsoreau. It seems you hate him very much." "I? Not at all. I find him very ugly, and should have liked him away from court, not to have had to look at him. It seems, however, that you admire him, and there is no accounting for tastes. Well, then, as that was your sole excuse, you were doubly wrong to refuse to accompany me, and then to go out after and commit follies." "Follies? What did I do?" "Doubtless. You do not like M. d'Epernon and Schomburg. Neither do I, but one must have some prudence. Kill them, and I should be grateful to you, but do not exasperate them." "What did I do to them?" "Why, you had Dupin stoned." "I?" "Yes, so that his clothes were torn to pieces. Good. And what about M. Schomburg? You will not deny that you had him dyed indigo color? When I saw him 3 hours after, he was still bright blue. Do you call that a joke? And the prince laughed in spite of himself, and Bussy joined him. Then, said he, they think it was I who played them these tricks. Perhaps it was I. And you have the conscience to reproach a man who had such fine ideas. Well, I pardon you, but I have another complaint to make. What did you do to deliver me from my unlucky situation? You see, I came to end you. It seems to me that you would have been more useful nearer. Ah, there we differ. I preferred coming to end you. Your caprice is a bad reason. But if I came to gather your partisans... Ah, that is different. What have you done? I will explain that to you tomorrow. At present I must leave you. Why? I have to see an important person. Oh, very well, but be prudent. Prudent? Are we not the strongest here? Never mind, risk nothing. Have you done much? I have only been here 2 days. But you keep yourself concealed, I hope. I should think so. Look at my dress. Am I in the habit of wearing cinnamon-colored clothes? And where are you lodging? Ah, I hope you will appreciate my devotion. In a tumble-down old house, near the ramparts. But you, my prince, how did you get out of the Louvre? How was it that I found you on the road, with M. D'Aubigne for companion? Because I have friends. You? Friends? Yes, friends that you do not know. Well, and who are they? The King of Navarre and D'Aubigne, whom you saw. The King of Navarre. Ah, true. Did you not conspire together? I never conspired, M. de Bussy. No, ask poor La Mole and Cocanas. La Mole, said the prince, gloomily, died for another crime than the one alleged against him. Well, never mind him. How the devil did you get out of the Louvre? Through the window. Which window? That of my bedroom. Then you knew of the rope ladder. What rope ladder? In the cupboard. Ah, it seems you knew it, cried the prince, turning pale. Oh, your highness knows I have sometimes had the happiness of entering that room. In the time of my sister Margot. Then you came in by the window, as you came out. All that astonishes me is that you knew the ladder. It was not I who found it. Who then? I was told of it. By whom? By the King of Navarre. Ah, the King of Navarre knew of it. I should not have thought so. However, now you are here safe and sound. We will put Anjou in flames, and burn, and Angoumois will catch the light, so we shall have a fine blaze. But did you not speak of a rendezvous? It is true. The interest of the conversation was making me forget. Adieu, Monseigneur. Do you take your horse? If it will be useful to you, Monseigneur, you may keep it. I have another. Well, I accept. We will settle that later. The Duke gave Bussy his hand, and they separated. Chapter 57. The ideas of the Duc d'Anjou. Bussy returned home, but instead of St. Luc, whom he expected, he found only a letter fixing their meeting for the next day. About 6 in the morning, St. Luc started, and rode straight to Bussy's house. Accept the hospitality of my poor hut, St. Luc, said Bussy. I am encamped here. Yes, like a conqueror on the field of battle. What do you mean? I mean, dear Bussy, that my wife has no secrets from me, and has told me all. Receive my compliments. But, since you have sent for me, permit me to give you a piece of advice. Well, get rid as soon as possible of that abominable Monsoreau. No one at the court knows of your love for his wife. So when you marry the widow, no one will say you killed him on purpose. There is but one obstacle to this project, which presented itself to my mind as to yours. What is it? That I have sworn to Diana to respect the life of her husband, as long as he does not attack me. You are very wrong. Why so? Because if you do not take the initiative, he will discover you and will kill you. I cannot break my oath to Diana. Besides, he who is now a monster in all eyes will be thought an angel in his tomb. Therefore I do not advise you to kill him yourself. Oh, Saint Luke, no assassins. Who spoke of assassins? Of what then? Nothing. An idea passed through my mind. I will tell you what it was at another time. I do not love this Monsoreau much more than you, although I have not the same reason to detest him. So let us speak of the wife instead of the husband. Bussy smiled. You are a capital companion, Saint Luke, said he, and you may count on my friendship. Now my friendship consists of three things: my purse, my sword, and my life. Now, what about Diana? I wish to ask if you were not coming to Meridor. My dear friend, I thank you, but you know my scruples. I know all. At Meridor you fear to meet Monsoreau, although he is 80 leagues off, fear to have to shake his hand, and it is hard to shake the hand of the man you wish to strangle. You fear to see him embrace Diana, and it is hard to see that of the woman you love. Ah, how well you understand, cried Bussy with rage. But, my dear friend, did you not hear last night the noise of bells and guns? Yes, and we wondered what it meant. It meant that the Duc d'Anjou arrived last night. St. Luke jumped up. The Duke here? We heard he was imprisoned at the Louvre. That is just why he is now at Angers. He managed to escape through a window and came here. Well, here is an excellent opportunity to revenge yourself for the king's persecutions. The prince has already a party. He will soon have troops, and we shall have something like a little civil war. Oh, and I reckoned on you to help us. Against the king, said St. Luke with sudden coldness. Not precisely against the king, but against those who fight against us. My dear Bussy, I came here for country A, not to fight against His Majesty. But let me present you to Monseigneur. Useless. My dear Bussy, I do not like Angers. My dear St. Luke, you will do me a great service by consenting. The Duke asked me what I came here for, and, not being able to tell because of his own passion for Diana, I said that I had come to draw to his cause all the gentlemen in the canton. I even told him I had a rendezvous with one this morning. Well, tell him you have seen the gentleman, and that he asks 6 months to consider. Listen, I will always help you to defend Diana. You shall help me to defend my wife. We will make a treaty for love, but not for politics. I see. I must yield to you, St. Luke, for you have the advantage over me. I want you, and you do not want me. On the contrary, it is I who claim your protection. How so? Suppose the rebels besiege and sack Meridor. The two friends laughed. Then, as the Duke had sent to inquire for Bussy, they separated with renewed promises of friendship and charmed with each other. Bussy went to the ducal palace, where already all the nobility of the provinces were arriving. He hastened to arrange an official reception, a repast, and speeches, and having thus cut out some hours' occupation for the prince, mounted his other horse and galloped to Meridor. The Duke made some good speeches, and produced a great effect, giving himself out for a prince persecuted by the king on account of the love of the Parisian for him. When Bussy returned, it was 4 in the afternoon. He dismounted and presented himself to the Duke all covered with dust. Ah, my brave Bussy, you have been at work. You see, Monseigneur, you are very hot. I have ridden Faust. Take care not to get ill again. There is no danger. Whence do you come? From the environs. Is your highness content? Have you had a numerous assemblage? Yes, I am pretty well satisfied, but I miss someone. Who? Your protégé, the Baron de Meridor. Bussy changed color. And yet we must not neglect him, continued the Duke. He is influential here. You think so? I am sure of it. He was the correspondent of the League at Angers, chosen by M. de Guise, and the Guises choose their men well. He must come, Bussy. But if he does not come, I will go to him. To Meridor. Why not? Oh, why not? Certainly, cried Bussy, with flashing eyes. A prince may do anything. Then you think he is still angry with me? How should I know? You have not seen him. No. As one of the great men of the province, I thought I was not sufficiently fortunate in the former promises I made him to be in a hurry to present myself to him. Has he not attained his object? How so? He wanted his daughter to marry the Count, and she has done so. Bussy turned his back on the Duke, who, at the same moment, moved towards another gentleman who entered the room. Bussy began to reflect on what the Duke's project were with regard to the Baron, whether they were purely political, or whether he was still seeking to approach Diana, but he imagined that, embroiled with his brother, banished from the Louvre, and the chief of provincial insurrection, he had sufficiently grave interests at stake to outweigh his love fancies. He passed the night banqueting with the Duke and the Angevin gentlemen, then in dancing with the Angevin ladies. It is needless to say that he was the admiration of the latter and the hatred of the husbands, several of whom looked at him in a way which did not please him, so that, curling his mustachios, he invited 3 or 4 of them to take a walk with him by moonlight. But his reputation had preceded him, and they all declined. At the door Bussy found a laughing face waiting for him, which he believed to be 80 leagues off. "Ah!" cried he joyfully. "It is you, Remy." "Yes, monsieur. I was going to write to you to join me." "Really?" "On my word." "That is capital. I was afraid you would scold me." "For what?" "For coming without leave. But I heard that Monsieur le Duc d'Anjou had escaped and had fled here. I knew you were here also, and I thought there might be civil war and many holes made in skins. So I came." "You did well. Remy, I wanted you." "How is Gertrude, monsieur?" "I will ask Diana the first time I see her. And, in return, every time I see her I will ask for news of Madame de Monsoreau." "You are charming." Meanwhile they had reached Bussy's lodging. "Here is my palace. You must lodge as you can." "It will not be difficult. I could sleep standing. I am so tired." Bussy rose early the next morning and went to the ducal palace, leaving word for Remy to follow him. The Duke had prepared a list of important things to be done. Firstly, a walk round the walls to examine the fortifications. Secondly, a review of the inhabitants and their arms. Thirdly, a visit to the arsenal. Fourthly, correspondence. "Ah!" cried the Duke. "You already?" "My voix." "Yes, Monseigneur. I could not sleep. Your Highness's interests were so much on my mind. What shall we do this morning? Shall we hunt?" "How?" said the Duke. "You pretend to have been thinking all night of my interests, and the result of so much meditation is to propose to me a hunt." "True," said Bussy. "Besides, we have no hounds." "And no chief huntsman." "Ah, my voix. The chase would be more agreeable without him." "Ah, I am not like you. I want him. He would have been very useful to us here." "How so?" "He has property here." He or his wife?" Bussy bit his lips. "Meridor is only 3 leagues off. You know that," continued the Duke, "you who brought the old Baron to me." "Dame, I brought him because he hung on to my cloak. However, my protection did not do him much good." "Listen," said the Duke, "I have an idea." "Diable," said Bussy, who was always suspicious of the Duke's ideas. "Yes, it is that, if Monsoreau had the advantage over you at first, you shall have it now." "What do you mean?" "It is very simple. You know me. Bussy, I have had misfortune. Think you I am the man to submit to an affront with impunity?" "Explain yourself, Monseigneur." "Well, he stole the young girl I loved to make her his wife. Now I will steal his wife." Bussy tried to smile, but made a grimace instead. "Steal his wife," stammered he. "Nothing more easy. She is here, and you told me she hated her husband. Therefore, without too much vanity, I may flatter myself she will give me the preference if I promise her. What, Monseigneur? To get rid of a husband for her. You will do that. You shall see. Meanwhile, I will pay a visit to Meridor. You will day. Why not? You will present yourself before the old baron, whom you abandoned after promising me. I have an excellent excuse to give him. Where the devil will you find it? Oh, I will say to him, I did not break this marriage, because Monsoreau, who knew that you were one of the principal agents to the League, threatened to denounce you to the king. Has your highness invented that? Not entirely. Then I understand. Yes, I shall make him believe that by marrying his daughter I save his life. It is superb. Well, order the horses, and we will go to Meridor. Immediately, Monseigneur. Bussy then went to the door, but turned back and said, How many horses will your highness have? Oh, 4 or 5, what you like. If you leave it to me, I shall take 100. What for? Cried the prince, surprised. To have at least 25 I can rely on in case of attack. Attack? Yes. I have heard that there are thick woods in that neighborhood, and it would not surprise me if we fell into some ambush. Ah, do you think so? Monseigneur knows that true courage does not exclude prudence. I will order 150. And he moved towards the door. A moment, said the prince. Do you think I am in safety at Angers? Why, the town is not very strong, but well defended. Yes, but it may be badly defended. However brave you are, you can be but in one place at a time. True. Then if I am not in safety here, and I am not if Bussy doubts. I did not say I doubted. If I am not safe, I had better make myself so. I will go to the castle and entrench myself. You are right, Monseigneur. And then another idea. The morning is fruitful. I will make the Meridors come here. Monseigneur, you are grand today. Now let us visit the castle. Bussy went out while the prince was getting ready, and found Remy waiting. He wrote hastily a little note, picked a bunch of roses from the conservatory, rolled the note round the stems, went to the stable, brought out his horse, and, putting Remy on it and giving him the bouquet, led him out of the city. Now, said he, let Roland go. At the end of this road you will find the forest. In the forest a park, round the park a wall, and at that part of the wall where Roland stops, throw over this bouquet. He whom you expect does not come, said the note, because he who was not expected has come, and is more menacing than ever, for he loves still. Take with the lips and the heart all that is invisible to the eyes in this paper. In half an hour Remy reached his destination, carried by his horse, and threw over the bouquet. A little cry from the other side told him it had been received. Then Remy returned, in spite of his horse, which seemed much put out at losing its accustomed repast on the acorns. Remy joined Bussy as he was exploring a cave with the prince. Well, said he to his messenger, what did you hear or see? A wall, a cry, 7 leagues, replied Remy laconically. Chapter 58. A flight of Angevins. Bussy contrived to occupy the Duke so well with his preparations for war during 2 days that he found no time to think of Meridor, and from time to time, under pretext of examining the outer fortifications, jumped on Roland, and arrived at a certain wall, which he got over all the more quickly because each time he made some stone fall, and was, in fact, gradually making a breach. Towards the end of the 3rd day, as an enormous convoy of provisions was entering the city, the produce of a tax levied by the Duke on his good Angevins, as Mdinju, to make himself popular, was tasting the black bread and salt fish of the soldiers, they heard a great noise at one of the gates of the city, where a man, mounted on a white horse, had presented himself. Now Bussy had himself named Captain General of Anjou, and had established a most severe discipline in Angers. No one could go out or enter the town without a password, or which had no other aim than to prevent the Duke from sending a messenger to Meridor without his knowledge. The man on the white horse had arrived at a furious gallop, and had attempted to enter, but had been stopped. I am intrigues, said he, and desire to speak to the Duc d'Anjou. We do not know intrigues, they replied, but as for seeing the Duke, you shall be satisfied, for we shall arrest you and conduct you to him. You are a nice fellow, truly, to talk of arresting Charles Balzac d'Intrigues, Baron de Cuneo, and Comte de Graville. We will do so, however, replied the Bourgeois, who had 20 men behind him. Wait a little, my good friends. You do not know the Parisians. Well, I will show you a specimen of what they can do. Let us arrest him, cried the furious militia. Softly, my little lambs of Anjou, it is I who will have that pleasure. What does he say? Asked the Bourgeois. He says that his horse has only gone 10 leagues, and will ride over you all. And drawing his sword and swinging it furiously round, he cut off in his passage the blades of the nearest halberds, and in less than 10 minutes 15 or 20 of them were changed into broom handles. Ah, this is very amusing, cried he, laughing, and as he spoke stunning one of the Bourgeois with a blow on the head with the flat of his sword. However, as more and more Bourgeois crowded to the attack, and Intrigues began to feel tired, he said, Well, you are as brave as lions. I will bear witness to it. But, you see, you have nothing left but the handles of your halberds, and you do not know how to load your muskets. I had resolved to enter the city, but I did not know it was guarded by an army of Caesars. I renounce my victory over you. Good evening. I am going away. Only tell the prince that I came here expressly to see him. However, the captain had managed to communicate the fire to the match of his musket, but just as he was raising it to his shoulder, Intrigues gave him such a furious blow upon the fingers that he dropped it. Kill him! Kill him! Cried several voices. Do not let him escape. Ah! Said Intrigues. Just now you would not let me come in. Now you will not let me go out. Take care! That will change my tactics, and instead of the flat of my sword, I will use a point. Instead of cutting the halberds, I will cut the wrists. Now, will you let me go? No, no, he is tired. Kill him. Well, then, take care of your hands. Scarcely had he spoken when another cavalier appeared, riding furiously also, and who cried out as he approached, Intrigues, what are you doing among all these Bourgeois? Liverot, cried Intrigues. Mon Dieu, you are welcome, Morneois and Saint Denis, to the rescue. I heard 4 hours ago that you were before me, and I have been trying to catch you. But what is the matter? Do they want to massacre you? Yes, they will neither let me in nor out. Gentlemen, said Liverot, will you please to step either to the right or left, and let us pass? They insult us. Kill them, cried the people. Oh, this is Angers manners, said Liverot, drawing his sword. Yes, you see, unluckily, there are so many of them. If there were but 3 of us. And here is Riberac coming. Do you hear him? I see him. Here, Riberac. Are you fighting? Cried Riberac. Good morning, Liverot. Good morning, Intrigues. Let us charge them, said Intrigues. The Bourgeois looked in stupefaction at this reinforcement that was about to join the attacking party. They are a regiment, said the captain of the militia. This is only the advance guard, cried another. We are fathers of families, and our lives belong to our children, said others, and they all tried to fly, fighting with each other to get out of the way. At this stage of the affair Bussy and the prince arrived, followed by 20 cavaliers, to ascertain the cause of the tumult. They were told that it was 3 incarnate devils from Paris who were making all the disturbance. 3 men, Bussy, see who they are. Bussy raised himself in his stirrups, and his quick eye soon recognized Liverot. Mort de ma vie, Monseigneur, cried he, they are our friend from Paris who are besieging us. No, cried Liverot. On the contrary, it is these people who are killing us. Down with your arms, knaves, cried the Duke, these are friends. Friends, cried the Bourgeois. Then they should have had the password, for we have been treating them like pagans and they us like Turks. Liverot, Intrigues, and Riberac advanced in triumph to kiss the Duke's hand. Monseigneur, said Bussy, how many militia do you think there were here? At least 150. You have not very famous soldiers, since 3 men beat them. True, but I shall have the 3 men who did beat them. Chapter 59. Roland, thanks to the reinforcement which had arrived, Emaduc Dinju could go away pleased. He explored the ramparts of the surrounding country and castles. The Angevin gentleman found liberty and amusement at the court of the Duke, and the 3 friends were soon intimate with many of these nobles, especially those who had pretty wives. The general joy was at its height when 22 riding horses, 30 carriage horses, and 40 mules, together with litters, carriages, and wagons, arrived at Angers, or the property of the Duke. We must allow that the saddles were not paid for, and that the coffers were empty, but still it made a magnificent effect. The Duke's reputation for wealth was henceforward solely established, and all the province remained convinced that he was rich enough to war against all Europe if need were. Therefore they did not grudge the new tax which the prince imposed upon them. People never mind giving or lending to rich people, only to poor ones. Therefore the worthy prince lived like a patriarch on all the fat of the land. Numerous cavaliers arrived to offer to him their adhesions or their offers of service. One afternoon, however, about 4 o'clock, M. de Monsoreau arrived on horseback at the gates of Angers. He had ridden 18 leagues that day, therefore his spurs were red, and his horse covered with foam and half dead. They no longer made difficulties about letting strangers enter. Therefore M. de Monsoreau went straight through the city to the palace, and asked for the Duke. "He is out reconnoitering," replied the sentinel. "Way? I do not know." "Diable, what I have to say to him is very pressing. First put your horse in the stable, or he will fall." "The advice is good. Where are the stables?" As he spoke, a man approached and asked for his name. M. de Monsoreau gave it. The major domo, for it was he, bowed respectfully, for the chief huntsman's name was well known in Anjou. "Monsieur," said he, "please to enter and take some repose. Monseigneur has not been out more than 10 minutes, and will not be back till 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. I cannot wait so long. I am the bearer of news which cannot be too soon known to His Highness. Can I not have a horse and a guide?" "There are plenty of horses, but a guide is a different thing, for His Highness did not say where he was going." "Well, I will take a fresh horse and try to discover him. Probably you will hear where he has passed, monsieur." "Do they ride fast?" "Oh, no." "Well, get me a horse then." "Will monsieur come into the stables and choose one?" They all belonged to the Duke. Monsoreau entered. 10 or 12 fine horses, quite fresh, were feeding from the manger, which was filled with grain. Monsoreau looked over them, and then said, "I will take this bay." "Roland? Is that his name?" "Yes, and it is His Highness's favorite horse. M. de Bussy gave him to the Duke, and it is quite a chance that it is here today." Ronald was soon settled, and Monsoreau rode out of the stable. "In which direction did they start?" asked he. The man pointed it out. "Marguerite," said Monsoreau. "The horse seems to know the way." Indeed, the animal set off without being urged, and went deliberately out of the city, took a short cut to the gate, and then began to accelerate his pace. Monsoreau let him go. He went along the boulevard, then turned into a shady lane, which cut across the country, passing gradually from a trot to a gallop. "Oh," thought Monsoreau, as they entered the woods, "one would say we were going to Meridor. Can His Highness be there?" And his face grew black at the thought. "Oh," murmured he, "I who was going to see the prince, and putting off till tomorrow to see my wife. Shall I see them both at the same time?" The horse went on, turning always to the right. "We cannot be far from the park," said he. At that moment his horse neighed, and another answered him. In a minute Monsoreau saw a wall, and a horse tied to a neighboring tree. "There is someone," thought he, turning pale. Chapter 60. What M. de Monsoreau came to announce. As M. de Monsoreau approached, he remarked the dilapidation of the wall. It was almost in steps, and the brambles had been torn away, and were lying about. He looked at the horse standing there. The animal had a saddlecloth embroidered in silver, and in one corner an F and an A. There was no doubt, then, that it came from a prince's stables. The letters stood for Francois d'Anjou. The Count's suspicions at this sight became real alarm. The Duke had come here, and had come often, for, besides the horse waiting there was a second that knew the way. He tied up his horse near to the other, and began to scale the wall. It was an easy task. There were places of both feet and hands, and the branches of an oak tree, which hung over, had been carefully cut away. Once up, he saw at the foot of a tree a blue mantilla and a black cloak, and not far off a man and woman, walking hand in hand, with their backs turned to the wall and nearly hidden by the trees. Unluckily, with M. de Monsoreau's weight, a stone fell from a wall on the crackling branches with a great noise. At this noise the lovers must have turned and seen him, for the cry of a woman was heard, and a rustling of the branches as they ran away like startled deer. At this cry, Monsoreau felt cold drops on his forehead, for he recognized Diana's voice. Full of fury, he jumped over the wall, and with his drawn sword in his hand, tried to follow the fugitives, but they had disappeared, and there was not a trace or a sound to guide him. He stopped, and considered that he was too much under the influence of passion to act with prudence against so powerful a rival. Then a sublime idea occurred to him. It was to climb back again over the wall, and carry off with his own the horse he had seen there. He retraced his steps to the wall and climbed up again, but on the other side no horse was to be seen. His idea was so good that before it came to him it had come to his adversary. He uttered a howl of rage, clenching his fists, but started off at once on foot. In 2 hours and a half, he arrived at the gates of the city, dying with hunger and fatigue, but determined to interrogate every sentinel, and find out by what gate a man had entered with 2 horses. The first sentinel he applied to said that, about 2 hours before, a horse without a rider had passed through the gate and had taken the road to the palace. He feared some accident must have happened to his rider. Monsoreau ground his teeth with passion and went on to the castle. They found great life and gaiety, windows lighted up, and animation everywhere. He went first to the stable, and found his horse in the stall he had taken him from. Then, without changing his dress, he went to the dining room. The prince and all his gentlemen were sitting round a table magnificently served and lighted. The duke, who had been told of his arrival, received him without surprise, and told him to sit down and sup with him. "Monseigneur," replied he, "I am hungry, tired, and thirsty, but I will neither eat, drink, nor sit down till I have delivered my important message." "You come from Paris?" "Yes, in great haste." "Well, speak." Monsoreau advanced, with a smile on his lips and hatred in his heart, and said, "Monseigneur, your mother is advancing hastily to visit you." The Duke looked delighted. "It is well," said he, "M. de Monsoreau, I find you today, as ever, a faithful servant. Let us continue our supper, gentlemen." Monsoreau sat down with them, but gloomy and preoccupied. He still seemed to see the 2 figures among the trees, and to hear the cry of Diana. "You are overcome with weariness," said the prince to him. "Really, you had better go to bed." "Yes," said Livarot, "or he will go to sleep in his chair." "Pardon, Monseigneur, I'm tired out." "Get tipsy," said Intrigues. "There is nothing so good when you are tired. To your health, Count." "You must give us some good hunts," said Ribeirac. "You know the country." "You have horses and woods here," said Intrigues. "And a wife," added Livarot. "We will hunt a boar, Count," said the prince. "Oh, yes, tomorrow," cried the gentleman. "What do you say, Monsoreau?" "I am always at your highness's orders, but I am too much fatigued to conduct a chase tomorrow, besides which I must examine the woods." "And we must leave him time to see his wife," cried the Duke. "Granted," cried the young men. "We give him 24 hours to do all he has to do." "Yes, gentlemen, I promise to employ them well." "Now go to bed," said the Duke, and M. de Monsoreau bowed and went out, very happy to escape. Chapter 61. How the King learned the flight of his beloved brother, and what followed. When Monsoreau had retired, the repast continued, and was more gay and joyous than ever. "Now, Livarot," said the Duke, "finish the recital of your flight from Paris," which Monsoreau interrupted. Livarot began again, but as our title of historian gives us a privilege of knowing better than Livarot himself what had passed, we will substitute our recital for that of the young man. Towards the middle of the night, Henri III was awoke by an unaccustomed noise in the palace. It was oaths, blows on the wall, rapid steps in the galleries, and, amidst all, these words continually sounding, "What will the king say?" Henri sat up and called Caillot, who was asleep on the couch. Caillot opened one eye. "Ah, you were wrong to call me, Henri," said he. "I was dreaming that you had a son. But listen." "To what?" "You say enough follies to me by day, without breaking in on my nights. But do you not hear?" "Oh, oh, I do hear cries." "Do you hear? What will the king say?" "It is one of two things. Either your dog Narcissus is ill, or the Huguenots are taking their revenge for St. Bartholomew. Help me to dress. If you will first help me to get up." "What a misfortune!" sounded from the antechamber. "Shall we arm ourselves?" said the king. "We had better go first and see what is the matter." And almost immediately they went out by the secret door into the gallery. "I begin to guess," said Caillot. "Your unlucky prisoner has hanged himself." "Oh, no, it cannot be that." "So much the worse. Come on." And they entered the Duke's chamber. The window was open, and the ladder still hung from it. Henri grew as pale as death. "Oh, my son, you are not so blasé as I thought," said Caillot. "Escaped!" cried Henri, in such a thundering voice that all the gentlemen who were crowded round the window turned in terror. Schomberg tore his hay. Quelus and Morgian struck themselves like madmen. As for D'Epernon, he had vanished. This sight calmed the king. "Gently, my son," said he, laying hold of Morgian. "No, Mordieu," cried he, "I will kill myself," and he knocked his head against the wall. "Ola, help me to hold him." "It would be an easier death to pass your sword through your body," said Caillot. "Quelus, my child," said the king, "you will be as blue as Schomberg when he came out of the indigo." Quelus stopped, but Schomberg still continued to tear at his hay. "Schomberg, Schomberg, a little reason, I beg. It is enough to drive one mad. Indeed, it is a dreadful misfortune. There will be a civil war in my kingdom. Who did it? Who furnished the ladder? Mordieu, I will hang all the city. Who was it? 10,000 crowns to whoever will tell me his name, and 100,000 to whoever will bring him to me, dead or alive." "It must have been some Angevin," said Morgian. "Oh, yes, we will kill all the Angevins," cried Quelus. However, the king suddenly disappeared. He had thought of his mother, and, without saying a word, went to her. When he entered, she was half lying in a great armchair. She heard the news without answering. "You say nothing. Mother, does not this flight seem to you criminal, and worthy of punishment?" "My dear son, liberty is worth as much as a crown. And remember, I advise you to fly in order to gain a crown." "My mother, he braves me. He outrages me." "No, he only saves himself." "Ah, this is how you take my part." "What do you mean, my son?" "I mean that with age the feelings grow calm, that you do not love me as much as you used to do." "You are wrong, my son," said Catherine coldly. "You are my beloved son, but he of whom you complain is also my son." "Well, then, madam, I will go to find other counselors capable of feeling for me and of aiding me." "Go, my son, and may God guide your counselors, for they will have need of it to aid you in this strait." "Adieu, then, madam." "Adieu, Henri. I do not pretend to counsel you. You do not need me, I know, but beg your counselors to reflect well before they advise, and still more before they execute." "Yes, madam, for the position is difficult." "Very grave," replied she, raising her eyes to heaven. Have you any idea who it was that carried him off? Catherine did not reply. I think it was the Angevins, continued the king. Catherine smiled scornfully. The Angevins? You do not think so, do you, really? Tell me what you think, madam. Why should I? To enlighten me. Enlighten you? I am but a doting old woman, whose only influence lies in her prayers and repentance. No, mother, speak. You are the cleverest of us all. Useless. I have only ideas of the last century. At my age, it is impossible I should give good counsel. Well, then, mother, refuse me your counsel, deprive me of your aid. In an hour I will hang all the Angevins in Paris. Hang all the Angevins, cried Catherine, in amazement. Yes, hang, slay, massacre, burn. Already, perhaps, my friends are out to begin the work. They will ruin themselves, and you with them. How so? Blind? Will kings eternally have eyes, and not see? Kings must avenge their injuries. It is but justice, and in this case all my subjects will rise to defend me. You are mad. Why so? You will make oceans of blood flow. The standard of revolt will soon be raised, and you will arm against you a host who never would rise for Francois. But if I do not revenge myself, they will think I am afraid. Did anyone ever think I was afraid? Besides, it was not the Angevins. Who was it then? It must have been my brother's friends. Your brother has no friends. But who was it then? Your enemy. What enemy? Oh, my son, you know you have never had but one. Yours, mine, your brother Charles's. Always the same. Henri of Navarre, you mean? Yes, Henri of Navarre. He is not at Paris. Do you know who is at Paris, and who is not? No, you are all deaf and blind. Can it have been he? My son, at every disappointment you meet with, at every misfortune that happens to you which the author is unknown, do not seek or conjecture. It is useless. Cry out, it is Henri of Navarre, and you will be sure to be right. Strike on the side where he is, and you will be sure to strike right. Oh, that man, he is the sword suspended over the head of the Valois. Then you think I should countermand my orders about the Angevins? At once, without losing an instant. Hasten, perhaps you are already too late. Henry flew out of the Louvre to find his friends, but found only Caillecotte drawing figures in the sand with a stone. Chapter 62. How, as Caillecotte and the Queen Mother were agreed, the king began to agree with them. Is this how you defend your king? Cried Henri. Yes, it is my manner, and I think it is a good one. Good, indeed. I maintain it, and I will prove it. I am curious to hear this proof. It is easy, but first, we have committed a great folly. How so? Cried Henri, struck by the agreement between Caillecotte and his mother. Yes, replied Caillecotte. Your friends are crying through the city, death to the Angevins, and now that I reflect, it was never proven they had anything to do with the affair. And your friends, crying thus through the city, will raise that nice little civil war which M and the Guys have so much need, and which they did not succeed in raising for themselves. Besides which, your friends may get killed, which would not displease me, I confess, but which would afflict you, or else they will chase all the Angevins from the city, which will please them Dinju enormously. Do you think things are so bad? Yes, if not worse. But all this does not explain what you do here, sitting on a stone. I am tracing a plan of all the provinces that your brother will raise against you, and the number of men each will furnish to the revolt. Caillecotte, you are a bird of bad augury. The owl sings at night, my son, it is his hour. Now it is dark, Henri, so dark that one might take the day for the night, and I sing what you ought to hear. Look. At what? My geographical plan. Here is Anjou, something like a tartlet. You see, there your brother will take refuge. Anjou, well managed, as Monsoreau and Bussy will manage it, will alone furnish to your brother 10,000 combatants. Do you think so? That is a minimum. Let us pass to Guyenne. Here it is, this figure like a calf walking on one leg. Of course, you will not be astonished to find discontent in Guyenne. It is an old focus for revolt, and will be enchanted to rise. They can furnish 8,000 soldiers. That is not much, but they are well trained. Then we have Bern and Navarre. You see these two compartments, which look like an ape on the back of an elephant. They may furnish about 16,000. Let us count now. 10,000 for Anjou, 8,000 for Guyenne, 16,000 for Bern and Navarre, making a total of 34,000. You think, then, that the King of Navarre will join my brother? I should think so. Do you believe that he had anything to do with my brother's escape? Caillecourt looked at him. That is not your own idea, Henri. Why not? It is too clever, my son. Never mind whose idea it was. Answer my question. Well, I heard of Ventre Saint Gris in the Rue de la Ferronnerie. You heard of Ventre Saint Gris, but it might not have been he. I saw him. You saw Henri of Navarre in Paris. Yes. You saw my mortal enemy here and did not tell me. I am not a spy. Then there are the Guises. 20,000 or 25,000 men under the orders of the Duc de Guise will make up altogether a nice little army. But Henri of Navarre and the Duc de Guise are enemies, which will not prevent them from uniting against you. They will be free to fight with each other when they have conquered you. You are right, Caillecourt, and my mother is right. I will call the Swiss. Oh, yes, Quelus has got them. My guards, then, Schomberg has them. My household, at least. They have gone with Morgian, without my orders. And when do you ever give orders, except, perhaps, to flagellate either your own skin or that of others? But about government. By. Allow me to observe that you have been a long time finding out that you rank 7th or 8th in this kingdom. Here they are, cried the king, as 3 cavaliers approached, followed by a crowd of men on foot and on horseback. Schomberg, Quelus, come here, cried the king. They approached. I have been seeking you and waiting for you impatiently. What have you done? Do not go away again without my permission. There is no more need, said Morgian, who now approached, since all is finished. All is finished. Heaven be praised, said D'Epernon, appearing all at once, no one knew from whence. Then you have killed them, cried the king. Well, at least the dead do not return. Oh, we had not that trouble. The cowards ran away. We had scarcely time to cross our swords with them. Henri grew pale. With whom? Said he. With intrigues? On the contrary, he killed a lackey of Quelus's. Oh, murmured the king, here's a civil war lighted up. Quelus started. It is true, said he. Ah, said Caillecourt, you begin to perceive it, do you? But, Caillecourt, you cried with us, death to the Angevins. Oh, that is a different thing. I am a fool, and you a clever man. Come, peace, gentlemen, we shall have enough of war soon. What are your majesty's orders? That you employ the same ardor in calming the people as you have done in exciting them, and that you bring back all the Swiss, my guards, and my household, and have the doors of the Louvre closed, so that perhaps tomorrow the Bourgeois may take the whole thing for a sortie of drunken people. The young men went off, and Henri returned to his mother. Well, said she, what has passed? Oh, you foresaw, mother, they have escaped? Alas, yes. What else? Is not that enough? The city is in tumult, but that is not what disquiets me. No, it is the provinces, which will revolt. What shall you do? I see but one thing. What is that? To withdraw the army from La Charité and march on Anjou. And M. de Guise. Oh, I will arrest him if necessary. And you think violent measures will succeed? What can I do? Then, your plan will not do. Well, what is your idea? Send an ambassador. To whom? To your brother. An ambassador to that traitor. You humiliate me, mother. This is not a moment to be proud. An ambassador will ask for peace. Who will buy it if necessary? With what? Mondayu. If it were only to secure quietly, afterwards, those who have gone to make war on you. I would give much for that. Well, then, the end is worth the means. I believe you are right, mother, but whom shall I send? Seek among your friends. My mother, I do not know a single man to whom I could confide such a mission. Confide it to a woman, then. My mother, would you consent? My son, I am very old and very weak, and death will perhaps await me on my return, but I will make this journey so rapidly that your brother and his friends will not have had time to learn their own power. Oh, my good mother, cried Henri, kissing her hands, you are my support, my benefactress. That means that I am still Queen of France, murmured she. Chapter 63, in which it is proved that gratitude was one of St. Luc's virtues. The next morning, M. de Monsoreau rose early and descended into the courtyard of the palace. He entered the stable, where Roland was in his place. Are the horses of Monseigneur taught to return to their stable alone? Asked he of the man who stood there. No, M. le Comte. But Roland did so yesterday. Oh, he is remarkably intelligent. Has he ever done it before? No, monsieur. He is generally ridden by the Duc d'Anjou, who is a good rider and never gets thrown. I was not thrown, replied the Count, for I also am a good rider. No, I tied him to a tree while I entered a house, and at my return he had disappeared. I thought he had been stolen, or that some passerby had played a bad joke by carrying him away. That was why I asked how he returned to the stable. He returned alone, as monsieur said just now. It is strange. Monseigneur often rides this horse, you say? Nearly every day. His Highness returned late last night. About an hour before you. And what horse did he ride? Was it a bay with a white star on his forehead? No, monsieur, he rode Iceland, which you see here. And in the prince's escort is there anyone who rides such a horse as I described? I know of no one. Well, said Monsoreau impatiently, settle me Roland. Roland? Yes. Are there any orders against it? No. On the contrary, I was told to let you have any horse you pleased. When Roland was settled, Monsoreau said to the man, What are your wages? 20 crowns, monsieur. Will you earn 10 times that sum at once? I ask no better. But how? Find out who rode yesterday the horse I described. Ah, monsieur, what you ask is very difficult. There are so many gentlemen come here. Yes, but 200 crowns are worth some trouble. Certainly, M. le Comte, and I will do my best to discover. That is right, and here are 10 crowns to encourage you. Thanks, M. le Comte. Well, tell the prince I have gone to reconnoiter the wood for the chase. As he spoke, he heard steps behind him, and turned. Ah, M. de Bussy, he cried. Why, M. le Comte, who would have thought of seeing you here? And you, who they said was so ill. So my doctor orders absolute rest, and for a week I have not left the city. Ah, you are going to ride Roland. I sold him to the Duke, who is very fond of him. Yes, he is an excellent animal. I rode him yesterday. Which makes you wish for him again today. Yes. You were speaking of a chase. Yes, the prince wishes for one. Whereabouts is it to be? Near Meridor. Will you come with me? No, thank you. I do not feel well. Oh, cried a voice from behind. There's M. de Bussy out without permission. Ah, there's my doctor scolding. Adieu, Comte. Bussy went away, and Monsoreau jumped into the saddle. What is the matter? Said Remy. You look so pale. I believe you are really ill. Do you know where he is going? No, to Meridor. Well, did you hope he would not? Mon Dieu, what will happen after what he saw yesterday? Madame de Monsoreau will deny everything. But he saw her. She will say he did not. She will never have the courage. Oh, M. de Bussy, is it possible you do not know women better than that? Remy, I feel very ill. So I see. Go home, and I will prescribe for you. What? A slice of fowl and ham, and some lobster. Oh, I am not hungry. The more reason I should order you to eat. Remy, I fear that that wretch will make a great scene at Meridor. I ought to have gone with him when he asked me. What for? To sustain Diana. Oh, she will sustain herself. Besides, you ought not to be out. We agreed you were too ill. I could not help it. Remy, I was so unquiet. Remy carried him off and made him sit down to a good breakfast. M. de Monsoreau wished to see if it were chance or habit that had led Roland to the park wall. Therefore he left the bridle on his neck. Roland took precisely the same road as on the previous day, and before very long M. de Monsoreau found himself in the same spot as before. Only now the place was solitary, and no horse was there. The Count climbed the wall again, but no one was to be seen. Therefore, judging that it was useless to watch for people on their guard, he went on to the park gates. The Baron, seeing his son-in-law coming over the drawbridge, advanced ceremoniously to meet him. Diana, seated under a magnificent sycamore, was reading poetry, while Gertrude was embroidering at her side. The Count, seeing them, got off his horse and approached them. Madam, said he, will you grant me the favor of an interview? Willingly, monsieur. What calm, or rather what perfidy, thought the Count. Do you do us the honor of remaining at the Chet? Asked the Baron. Yes, monsieur, until tomorrow at least. The Baron went away to give orders, and Diana reseated herself, while Monsoreau took Gertrude's chair, and, with a look sufficient to intimidate most people, said, Madam, who was in the park with you yesterday? At what time? Said Diana, in a firm voice. At 6? Way. Near the copse. It must have been someone else. It was not I. It was you, madam. What do you know about it? Tell me the man's name, cried Monsoreau, furiously. What man? The man who was walking with you. I cannot tell if it was some other woman. It was you, I tell you. You are wrong, monsieur. How dare you deny it? I saw you. You, monsieur? Yes, madam, myself. And there is no other lady here. You are wrong again. There is Jean de Brissac. Madame de Saint Luc. Yes, my friend. And M. de Saint Luc. Never leaves her. Theirs was a love match. You must have seen them. It was not them. It was you, with some man whom I do not know, but whom I will know. I swear. I heard your cry. When you are more reasonable, monsieur, I shall be ready to hear you. At present I will retire. No, madam, you shall stay. Monsieur, here I am and Madame de Saint Luc. I trust you will contain yourself. Indeed, M. and Madame de Saint Luc approached. She bowed to Monsoreau, and Saint Luc gave him his hand. Then, leaving his wife to Monsoreau, took Diana, and after a walk they returned, warned by the bell for dinner, which was early at Meridor, as the Baron preserved the old customs. The conversation was general, and turned naturally on the duck dingue, and the movement his arrival had caused. Diana sat far from her husband, between Saint Luc and the Baron. Chapter 64. The project of M. de St. Luc. When the repast was over, Monsoreau took Saint Luc's arm and went out. Do you know, said he, that I am very happy to have found you here, for the solitude of Meridor frightened me. What with your wife? As for me, with such a companion I should find the desert delightful. I do not say no, but still, what? I am very glad to have met you here. Really, monsieur, you are very polite, for I cannot believe that you could possibly feel armed with such a companion and such a country. Bow! I pass half my life in the woods. The more reason for being fond of them, it seems to me. I know I shall be very sorry to leave them. Unluckily, I fear I shall be forced to do so before long. Why so? Oh, monsieur, when is man the arbiter of his own destiny? He is like the leaf of the tree, which the wind blows about. You are very fortunate. Fortunate? How? To live amongst these splendid trees. Oh, I do not think I shall stay here long. I am not so fond of nature, and I fear these woods. I think they are not safe. Why? On account of their loneliness. Do you mean? No, not that, for I suppose you see friends here. Not a soul. Ah, really? How long is it since you had any visitor? Not since I have been here. Not one gentleman from a court at Angers. Not one. Impossible. It is true. Then I am wrong. Perfectly. But why is not the park safe? Are there bays here? Oh, no. Wolves? No. Robbers? Perhaps? Tell me, monsieur, Madame de Saint Luc seemed to me very pretty. Is she not? Why, yes. Does she often walk in the park? Often. She adores the woods, like myself. And do you accompany her? Always. Nearly always. What the devil are you driving at? Oh, Mondayu, nothing, or, at least, a trifle. I listen. They told me. Well, you will not be angry. I never am so. Besides, between husbands, these confidences are right. They told me a man had been seen wandering in the park. A man? Yes. Who came for my wife? Oh, I do not say that. You would be wrong not to tell me, my dear Monsoreau. Who saw him? Pray tell me. Oh, to tell you the truth, I do not think it was for Madame de Saint Luc that he came. For whom, then? Ah, I fear it is for Diana. Oh, I should like that better. What? Certainly. You know we husbands are an egotistical set. Everyone for himself, and God for us all. The devil rather. Then you think a man entered here? I think so. And I do more than think, said St. Luke, for I saw him. You saw a man in the park? Yes. When? Yesterday. Alone. With Madame de Monsoreau. Way. Just here to the left. And as they had walked down to the old copse, St. Luke pointed out the spot where Bussy always came over. Ah, continued he, here's a wall in a bad state. I must warn the Baron. Whom do you suspect? Of what? Of climbing over here to talk to my wife. St. Luke seemed to reflect. Diable, said he, it could only have been. Whom? Why, yourself. Are you joking, M. de St. Luc? How have I? No. When I was first married, I did such things. Come, you are trying to put me off. But do not fear. I have courage. Help me to seek. You will do me an immense favor. St. Luke shook his head. It must have been you, said he. Do not jest, I beg of you. The thing is serious. Do you think so? I am sure of it. Oh, and how does this man come? Secretly. Often? I fear so. Look at the marks in the wall. Well, I suspected it, but I always fancied it was you. But I tell you, no. Oh, I believe you, my dear sir. Well, then, it must have been someone else. Monsoreau began to look black, but St. Luc preserved his easy nonchalance. I have an idea, said he. Tell me, if it were? Well, but no. Pray speak. The Duc d'Anjou. I thought so at first, but I have made inquiries, and it could not have been he. Oh, he is very cunning. Yes, but it was not he. Wait, then. Well, I have another idea. If it was neither you nor the Duke, it must have been I. You? Why not? You to come on horseback to the outside of the park when you live inside. Oh, mon Dieu, I am such a capricious being. You, who fled away when you saw me. Oh, anyone would do that. Then you were doing wrong, cried the Count, no longer able to keep in his anger. I do not say so. You are mocking me, cried the Count, growing very pale, and had been doing so for a quarter of an hour. You are wrong, monsieur, said St. Luke, drawing out his watch and looking steadily at him. It has been 20 minutes. You insult me, and you insult me with your questions like a constable. Ah, now I see clearly. How wonderful! At 10 o'clock in the morning. But what do you see? I see that you act in concert with the traitor, the coward, whom I saw yesterday. I should think so. He is my friend. Then I will kill you in his place. Bow! In your own house, and without crying, Gare, M. de Monsoreau, how badly you have been brought up, and how living among beasts spoils a manners. Do you not see that I am furious? Howled the Count. Yes, indeed, I do see it, and it does not become you at all. You look frightful. The Count drew his sword. Ah, said St. Luke, you try to provoke me. You see I am perfectly calm. Yes, I do provoke you. Take the trouble to get over the wall. On the other side we shall be on neutral ground. What do I care? I do. I do not want to kill you in your own house. Very well, said Monsoreau, climbing over. Take care. Pray do not hurt yourself, my dear Count. Those stones are loose, said St. Luke. Then he also got over.